5:35 p.m. Has started on Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. We'll start off with establishment of quorum with all members of council being present. And at this time, we'll take a moment of reverence for our service members serving not only here in the United States, but abroad, protecting our freedom, our liberties, and to all the first responders and medical professionals that are on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic. We ask that you keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they do their job to protect and help the rest of us, the rest of the citizens that have been contracting the virus. Thank you. Are there any, moving on to citizens' communications and recognitions? No. Do we have any? And just for the record, any citizen who is wishing to participate in citizens' communications, you can always call 773-1111, ask for Imelda Rodriguez, or email her at irodriguez@eaglepasstx.us. Moving on to public hearings. Item number 1, public hearing on the proposed final replat of Lot 9 and Block 16 of El Pueblo Nuevo Subdivision, LTD, closing of public hearing and possible action. Note that the public hearing started at 5:37 p.m. on September 1st, 2020. Is somebody going to present on this? Was Vanessa Placido going to present on this?
I saw Mr. Madera earlier.
Yeah, I saw him drive in.
Well, he was just here in the hallway. I said hello to him a few minutes ago.
Can we take the public hearings out of order since they're not ready?
Yes, sir.
Take them out of order?
Yes,
They're not
sir.
ready, so we'll move on. We'll skip the public hearings for now. We'll come back to them once
Monday?
planning is ready for those presentations. Moving on to minutes. Item number 4, approval of minutes for July 24th, 2020. And the minutes have been provided on your package. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 24th, 2020.
I second it.
Motion made by Councilman Salinas, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Any questions on it? None being, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Are we ready, Placido, for the public hearings? You got the public hearings 1, 2, and 3?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we'll move back to public hearings. Public hearing number 1, public hearing on the proposed final replat of Lot 9 and Block 16 of El Pueblo Nuevo Subdivision, LTD, closing the public hearing and possible action. The public hearing started at 5:39 p.m. on September 1st, 2020. Placido?
Sorry, excuse me, I was running a little late. I had to make a quick run to the men's room, but for this item, this public hearing is for a request presented by Friction Engineering on behalf of the developer, Damari Miradas, and what they're seeking to do is
I'm sorry, Placido. Those of you online, if you'll mute your mic, is there some interference coming in? Go ahead, Placido.
They're seeking to replat an existing lot in the Pueblo Nuevo area. It is important to note this one is outside of city limits. So it is approximately 0.3586 acre into 2 residential lots, including a variance to proceed to final plat directly without first having obtained preliminary replat approval. This is the engineer drawing showing the split of the lot. Again, it was approximately a third of an acre. They will be splitting that. It will still meet the minimum requirements for each residential lot. Here's a slightly larger version of that. As you can see in this front, the lower lot, there's an existing home on there. The back portion of it is not developed, so they're gonna go ahead and subdivide, and then they plan to have a family member, I believe, build on the rear portion of that. Here you can see an aerial view of that, where the structure is built up in the front. Let me return back, just make a note. Waterworks did request a setback there to the right of the property, which will allow for the utility access to the rear development.
Now, this is out in the county,
Correct.
so they don't have
That's on, I'm not gonna, that's as far as I'm.
zoning, R1s, R2 zoning.
It is, it still meets the requirements even after it meets the minimum zoning requirements for that.
For that area?
For that area, yeah.
All right.
Yes.
And here's a street view, the front of the property. The utility easement would be running along the side here to the right. Here's a side view. You can see there is already an existing sidewalk in this part of for this main thoroughfare area. And part of the development will require that sidewalk also be installed in this front area as well.
Where would be the front of the rear property, on the side entrance or what?
The side, so essentially here, this would be their frontage,
We're gonna have,
Frontage for the
do we
new-
have a sidewalk? Okay.
the new property, which, let's see, we can go back.
This is out in the county?
That's correct.
Why does the city
Yes.
approve?
Part of the replatting ETJ, it still goes through city council.
Okay.
Anything with 5 mile, within 5 miles.
Let me, and it would, like, if we were going forward with something like this, I mean, it would still be okay, like, if it was within the city limits? Because I want to make sure that we're allowing things, going along with things that would be along the lines of what we would want if that area was annexed in the
Yeah.
future.
That's a really good point, and it would be, again, it would meet, it's a fairly large lot. You don't see lots this large usually inside city limits, so even after the split, it still will be able to meet front setbacks, side setbacks,
Okay.
everything that city lots would.
It's in alignment with our, okay.
And what's going to
That
be,
was the reason I asked about where's the front facing,
and
So
they
it
end
will
up
be
be,
facing Karen Drive.
Okay.
they still end up being over 7,000 square feet, 7,500 square feet, both of them? So
That's
they're
correct.
both, they stay R1s, so they
But
meet.
yes, they still would meet the requirement, the sizing of an R1, so that's how big the original lot
Okay.
was. That splitting it's still bigger than a lot of our current lots inside.
And the
city.
R2s?
Yep. So the recommendation here from the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the Planning Department would be to go ahead and grant the request to subdivide and proceed directly to final replat without first obtaining the preliminary. And as long as they will need to comply with all of Chapter 23 ordinances, which is a standard for any development. Are there any questions regarding the item? Oh, sorry, one thing I did fail to mention is that we did send out, let's see how many,
You sent out letters, yeah.
46 notices, did not receive any in response.
What do you think?
If you don't have a problem with it, I'll move to,
Well, we got to close the public hearing first,
oh,
and then we'll take action.
okay.
So so you said you had 46 sent out, but you had none returned, or no complaints, or no anything?
No response at all.
And no
In
returns?
favor but we did not get a response at all.
Okay. And none of the mail was returned?
We received just 3 return to sender, and they didn't get to the recipient, but actually filled out and responded, no, we didn't receive.
Mr. Madera, just out of curiosity, are those sent in English only, or are they translated to Spanish at all? Some, no?
They are in English.
They're in
That's a
English
good
only.
point, that maybe we can do a double.
I mean, I know that we don't have to, but maybe that's the reason why we're not getting any of them. I mean, we really don't have to, so that's not.
Usually what happens
It's
is
just
we get-
curiosity, I just
Well,
wanted
that
to
would
know.
be-
That's a good question. Usually what happens is we get a call. sometimes people see the notice, don't know exactly what it is, they call us and they ask us to explain it. And so that's where we clarify if they have any questions. But that is a good point that we can look at, maybe sending a Spanish version.
Do you know if you had any calls on this particular one?
This one we did
on the
not.
notices? No?
Again, I know that we don't have to, it would just be, I guess, out of courtesy.
It's not
or-
a bad idea to do it, I mean,
Because, more than likely, that's why we don't get answers, because they probably don't, you know, like you say, if they don't understand it, they'll call. But
It's a good point, yes.
it's just,
let me ask you a question, I know it's not, I mean, it is related, but it's not directly, you know. I know you send out the notices, and what is the legal procedure, I mean, is it only the notices, I mean, or like, do we ever, like, if, like in this case that you didn't get anything back, do we ever call the immediately abutting property owners to make sure they received them or something like that? Because, and the only reason I'm asking you this is because I know there's some that have been approved, and now, you know, there's some issues with that, so I wanna make sure what is it that we're doing, I mean, what is it that we need to do legally, as well as our due diligence to make sure that we are respecting all the rights of all the residents.
Yeah, that's another good point. We don't do an additional
I don't know.
follow-up or secondary, you know, we do, I think the legal
It's just a
requirement is to
notice.
send them out, which is what we do. But it's another idea that we
I
might
mean, I don't
look
know if
into.
you can even call them or not, just to make sure that they got the letter. I mean, at least those that are immediately impacted.
I mean, I'm not sure, sometimes we do try to look up information
Mhm.
through the appraisal district. I don't know where we would actually obtain phone numbers,
Yeah.
but, I mean, we would probably need to actually physically go out.
Right.
But it's a good point.
And at the end of the day, this will be going through the county as well, right?
They do, it has, yes, it has gone through them before even going to the commission, it gets approved from the county side. And then they also, I don't know if they already have, but it'll also go through commissioners.
But in the meantime, it has to meet the criteria of the city because it's within the ETJ. Right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Anything else, Placido?
That's it from our end.
All right, so if there's no further you got a question?
No, I
Oh,
second
okay.
his
No.
motion.
Well, let me close
Oh, you
the,
close.
let me close the hearing first. At this time, 5:48, we'll close the public hearing on September 1st, 2020 on item number 1, on the proposed final replat of Lot 9, Block 16 of El Pueblo Nuevo Subdivision LTD. And at this time, we can take action on it, so if there's a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion. sir.
Motion made by Councilman Salinas, second by Councilwoman Ramon. Any further questions for Placido? None being, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Item number 2, public hearing on the proposed final replat of Lot 8 and 9 in Block 1 of Crown Ridge Subdivision Unit 3. Closing of public hearing and possible action. The record reflect this public hearing began at 5:49 PM on September 1st, 2020. Placido?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So this item, similar to the last, is a public hearing, a request to go for a final replat. This one, though, is in city limits and is a commercial zone property versus the last one was residential. The applicant is TEC Services on behalf of Monza LTD. The location's at 2700 Crown Hill Drive and 2744 Crown Hill Drive. They are seeking the total, they're seeking to subdivide a total of approximately 1.29 acres into 6 commercial lots. Part of that will include a variance to proceed directly to final without first having obtained preliminary plat approval. And 2, a variance to reduce the required intensity of use, which is this total square footage. Based on the zoning ordinance, the new subdivided area will be slightly smaller than what's prescribed, but it will still be able to meet the various setbacks. This is the plan drawing from the engineer. This is a more zoomed in version. Again, you can see Crown Ridge Boulevard here. Some of you may be familiar. It is a little bit tucked in, but these are a couple of office suites to the left, and then up at the top, it's some apartment type buildings that kind of overlook ranch area. It's got a pretty nice view over there. And so the blue outlined area is what they plan to subdivide.
That's right behind the, is that, no, that's not behind Tractor Supply. Where's that one?
So this is, Veterans Boulevard would be over here on
That's like-
Crown Ridge. This is a subdivision where, or the shopping center,
Where Mondragon
where
is.
Mondragon is. Yeah, so these are part of the Mondragon properties behind there. And again, on this one difference on this one, being commercial, we don't send out the notice to abutting properties. It's a public, published notice that we put out in the local paper. Again, we did not receive responses or concerns on this. So our recommendation here as well would be to grant the request to proceed directly to final plat without preliminary plat, as well as a variance of the ordinance for B1 Neighborhood Business District, which, that's another thing I will point out, although it's not definite at this point, but they do plan to do apartment type, like a duplex, with these properties once they, upon approval. And based on what they preliminarily plan to do, the size of the properties would meet those requirements. So we are recommending the approval of that with the, again, slightly smaller lot size.
How much smaller?
So we're looking at,
What's the typical size supposed to be?
so let me bring that up. The typical,
Or what's the minimum size, I should say?
there are a couple about, I believe it was about 200 square feet less than the usual. Let me see if I can, let me bring that up. Because it's the intensity is about 7,000, minimum of 7,000, might be 7,200 for the apartment type use, or the duplex type use that they want to do. And these will be, let me go back to that. 6,600, 6,500. So again, it's a few hundred less than the,
That's
7,000.
like 700 less. If you say 7,200 is a minimum, and they're going to 6,500,
yeah, mostly they're 66, and the intensity is, let me see, I'm not pulling up the number, but I believe it's 7,000. 7,000 is for that particular type.
Sí, porque pues, well, these are
and what is the
apartments.
did you say he was, what they were gonna build on those lots?
They're looking at like duplex type on each one.
Okay, how much property do you need for a duplex?
The, well, the minimum would be like a typical, because if it was an apartment, that's where it triggers the minimum, or a higher, which would be 4 units, it would trigger a higher need. But I think part of that is why they're gonna do the duplex, which doesn't trigger that. So basically, the sizing of these would be similar to that of, residential lots where duplexes are allowed.
And where's the parking gonna be?
They will have to meet, all the zoning ordinances, so all their 4 spots will need to be off-street, they will need to be on the property.
They have
So-
to be on the property.
So again, as with all, any type of approvals do come with a condition that they are gonna meet and comply with Chapter 23 as well as all other city ordinances. Trying to bring up that exact square footage for you, it's slipping my mind right now. But it is, like I said, somewhere a couple of hundred square feet, it's not, 700, I think that's definitely higher. If I remember correctly, it was 2 to 4, somewhere in that range. So we felt they would still meet, the intensity would still be fine with what they plan to do there.
So the minimum is less than 7,000 square feet, if this is 6,500.
For a duplex
Yes.
type? Yes.
Mr. Marera, is this completely independent? I'm trying to place myself where it is, from what's in existence right now, the residential? Or
These
is that
are-
a completely separate area?
It's on the opposite side, right? of the
It's
residence.
behind the buildings, no?
So these are.
I'm trying to figure out the land, is what you're saying, that's me too, because I'm not really
These are
clear.
commercial on this side currently.
Is that
Right.
behind the
All of that is
offices?
undeveloped at this point. What was the question?
No, that's
What do you-
not developed, that's what he said,
Okay,
right?
veterans
If
is
you go back
over
to where you
here.
had the pictures, I think maybe where the other, see, that's where they're doing it? You see what?
Yeah, so
There's
over
nothing
here,
there.
this is
Yeah.
undeveloped property at this point. Over here is the residential
The Crown Ridge.
Crown Ridge subdivision. You would turn right into go into those neighborhoods, but these are the existing apartments that I mentioned.
Yeah,
And so this is the undeveloped land where they plan to,
and it down, if you go down on that to the left bottom, that's where the offices are?
down here, and then so veterans would run
Yeah.
here. So here's
Dr.
offices.
Salcedo's office and,
There's a
So-
gym there, right?
There's a gym
Yeah.
behind, off of the,
and all those are
Office veterans.
duplexes?
well, at this point,
Those are apartments, but is he gonna make, I mean, is that the intent for them to do like that type of like a garden home type? Because I mean, that's considerably smaller if it's a duplex, and that's what seems feasible in the area. I mean, as he builds up.
well, at this
Wherever
point,
that
in
is.
this point, it's just the replat. What they actually do later will be a separate process when they try to get the permitting for it, and whatever they request permits for will need to comply in terms of all the ordinances, setbacks, and, you know, all those things. So it will need to meet those minimum requirements, but based on what they think they're gonna do or what they told us, it will. And that's why they're choosing to proceed with.
We just gotta make sure, if we're gonna reduce the size that's required, that's it, that we're not gonna
Variance of the
give another variance
Right.
on the buildings that will be put in there that will interfere with parking and traffic flow.
That's a good point. No,
Everybody else.
no, that we would not.
So that,
That's a
Yeah, that's
concern,
my
Mr.
concern.
Madera, that's a
Oh, you can
concern
try
due to past experiences with that, okay?
Yeah.
So it is a huge concern. I mean, I don't know how, well, it's just a concern, I'm sure.
we can
you
make
know.
it as a condition that no more variances.
Well, can we get the
Exactly.
sizes of the requirements before we, I
Sorry?
would like to know to make sure how much we're actually making
Oh,
the
okay.
variance from, because, actually, that's what I'm trying to look at. I'm looking at the code of ordinances, but I'm trying to. Get up.
Yeah, if you'd like, I can try to pull that up right quick.
Just want to make sure that we're not doing something that. You can see, you do like 12%.
Somebody online has their mic on and we can hear that interference. Can you mute them, Carlos?
Él está bien contento.
Can you mute them, Carlos? Sounds like a baseball game in the background.
No, I can't, no puedo, ellos en su computadora.
All right. I'm like, threw me off. Is Vanessa on the line by any chance? No?
Yes, sir, I'm on the line.
Did you hear the question we're looking for? What would be the minimum size of lots for that type of use? You remember?
For mixed use, or I think it's the townhome, right?
Townhomes or duplexes?
I'm not sure, but
Including all the manual.
it's just what I'm finding, and I'm not sure if because I'm scrolling quickly, but I'm finding 7,700.
See, so then you're
I just
asking to
want to, I'm not
reduce
sure if
it.
I'm correct, that's why I'm asking.
Well, 77 is
Wait.
R1.
Wait, hold on, yeah, that's what I'm trying to,
That's
let me see if I.
R1.
So it's
let me
7,000.
keep going.
I just pulled up, so R3,
Yeah, it's just-
R3 duplex, it is 7,000 even.
And they're going down to 6,500?
66, and one of them was a little bit under the 66, but I think 3 or 4 of them,
So they're between $400 and $500.
yeah. So the ordinance states a lot in which there is erected 2-family dwellings shall contain an area of not less than 7,000. So it's, again, just showing us, requesting slightly smaller lot for that, but they still will comply with the setbacks, off-street parking, and other requirements.
Any other comments, Placido?
It's beneficial for the city that something be built there, right?
Yeah.
It would definitely help with property values and, you know,
And housing.
increasing development and offer more options for affordable, well, somewhat affordable living with a duplex type. So again, just to recap, or just to finalize that, we do recommend utilizing that, and I guess on a personal note, I am in favor of more dense, basically utilizing the areas for more density, get more people. It's less expensive for the city. The more spread out things are, sometimes called sprawl, the cities end up having to pay more in roads for those areas. So in things like this, where it's a small deviation, slightly less, a little bit more dense, in my opinion and my research, it's positive in helping for utility lines, lighting, roadway. It's
Yep.
less expensive in a lot of areas when we do that.
Can you put the map again where it shows the, not that one, the other one? That's what I wanted, thank you. I wanted to look at it here, sorry, because I can see it closer here. Because the final one is not, is that also part of, you see where the cul-de-sac ends? What is the intent there? Because I only see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots, and then the cul-de-sac, that's, is that, I mean, because I see that it's also part of the blue shaded area, or the outlined area.
Yeah, so there will be also part of what's being,
Because I mean, as I was reading through the code right now, I wanted to make sure, because it's like, it's saying about how any deviations on an I-rail or the cul-de-sac, we need to be careful about how the setback is the property line. That's my only concern. That's why I wanted to see that, because I remember reading that.
so again, what we get from developers at this stage is not finalize what they plan to do when they're doing this process, but what we were told is that they were looking to do something similar to what's right across it on that larger tract, and then on the smaller ones, something more like duplex type development.
And this was approved by the planning and zoning?
Yes. So just as we always want to make sure and mention that this, any development they do would need to comply with all.
And no more variances on setbacks and all that, because they're already minimizing the size of the lots. So,
Right, yes, sir.
all right, so at this time, if there's no further questions on the public hearing, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:03 PM on September 1st, 2020. And this time, if anybody would like to make a motion to, your recommendation was to approve, Placido, and that was from the planning department as well, planning and zoning?
Yes.
And you can make the motion with a condition that no more variance on setbacks.
If
And
that's the case, then I will make a motion, but I want to make sure that there's no more variances allowed.
Understood, yes, sir.
Second.
And I agree with that, and I think that it's important that we do allow the development, further development of raw land there, as well as give people an opportunity for access to affordable housing or suitable housing. And with that in mind, I mean, I'll concur with what your motion is, and I'll second that.
so there's a motion by Councilwoman Ramon with a condition that no more variances on setbacks, and the second by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. And then no other questions? None being, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous.
And now, do we close the public hearing?
Yes, I did.
Sorry, Sergio.
Item number 3, you're earning your pay today, Placido. Public hearing on the request submitted by Broad Reach Power LLC for the rezoning of a 1.0000 acre severance located in Samuel S. Sanders Survey 26, Abstract 826, Maverick County, Texas, and out of the remainder of an 81.55 acres tract described in conveyance document to the Los Santos Children's Trust, recorded in volume 623, pages 386 of the Maverick County Official Public Records, Maverick County, Texas, from R2 Second 1 Family Dwelling District to B3 General Business District, closing a public hearing and possible action. And the public hearing started at 6:05 PM on September 1st, 2020. Placido?
Thank you, Mayor. This request is for, the applicant on this one is the Los Santos Children's Trust for lessee Broadreach Power LLC. The location's at 3301 of Indio Highway, and as you mentioned, it's a 1 acre tract, part of an abstract that they seek to rezone from R2, second one family dwelling, to B3 general business district. 16 notices were mailed out to nearby property owners for this item. None were received in response on this. And just for the record, I'm talking to legal. I want to go ahead and read the meets and bounds, being that it is an abstract and doesn't have a legal property description. We want to cover that just to make sure.
I'm not gonna have to read all that.
Well,
I'm recommending that Placido do that.
Okay.
This is the one we're gonna take later on.
okay, let's see how.
Mayor, can you bear with Placido and can you read it?
Yes, go ahead, Placido.
So let me try to do my best at speed reading. Being a 1.0000 acre severance located in Samuel S. Sanders Survey 26, Abstract 826, Maverick County, Texas, and out of the remainder of the 81.55 acres tract described in conveyance documents to the Los Santos Children's Trust recorded in volume 623, pages 386 of the Maverick County Official Public Records, Maverick County, Texas, and more particularly described by meets and bounds as follows. The bearings and distances shown herein conform to the Texas Coordinate System, North American Datum 1983, Texas South Central Zone Grid. All corners called for as being set are marked on the ground with half-inch steel stakes with plastic identification caps stamped Dirksen/6260 attached unless otherwise noted or shown. Beginning at a steel stake found SPC North 1.1343, 4854.36, E1500070.44 in the southeast line of Lewis Farms Estates Subdivision Unit 4, recorded in envelope 306, Site A of the Maverick County Official Public Records, and a west corner of a 474.12 acre tract described in volume 1745, pages 331, ET-SEQ of the Maverick County Official Public Records for the north corner of the herein described tract. Thence, south 17 degrees, 16 minutes, 27 seconds east, 225.63 feet to a steel stake set northeast line of said remainder for the east corner of the herein described tract. Thence, crossing through the said remainder for the following two calls. 1. South 45 degrees, 8 minutes, 56 seconds west, 165.57 feet to a steel stake set forth the south corner of the herein described tract. 2. North 44 degrees, 51 minutes, 4 seconds east, 200.00 feet to a steel stake set in the southeast line of Van Green Street as shown on the plat of Lewis Farms Estates, Subdivision Unit 3, recorded in envelope 284, Site A of the Maverick County Official Public Records for the west corner of the herein described tract. Thence, north 45 degrees, 8 minutes, 56 seconds east, 270.03 feet to the point of beginning containing a total of 1.0000 acre of land within the herein described boundary as surveyed by Dirksen Engineering on August 4th, 2020. So,
That's pretty good.
for the record, I wanted to make sure to cover that.
What was the third item? Just teasing.
So I covered the applicant, 16 noted, we did not receive any opposition. So to get your bearings, this is Microstar over to the right, just beside this particular tract, and the circled portion is where this particular 1 acre tract is going to be developed. Again, you can see it's in that top corner of this tract, adjacent to Lewis Farms Estates. The zoning map does show you here, all of that was zoned R2, I believe, in previous developments that we're looking at. That was part of the Coconut, and it was planned to be a residential development. Since then, things changed, and there's more business development coming up in the area. So part of this will be to accommodate for those new plans for more business development there. Although one thing we do try to do is buffer going from residential to what would be industrial, such as like the Microstar. Back to that in the map. And so what we would like to do there is B1 or B3 buffering between residential zones and the type of what would be going on, like an industrial, like a MicroStar, which involves heavy trucks and different equipment and machinery. So this particular plan development that's going to be taking place after this rezone will not create noise that's perceptible to humans or waste output of any kind of pollution, and does not require manned personnel. It's basically an automated system that takes maybe once a month or so maintenance for somebody to come by and check on it. And what they plan to do there, it's a battery cell storage, almost like what you see like with Tesla Powerwalls, where they store energy in these cells. So this won't actually create energy, what they plan to do, but it will store it. It will be able to collect it during off-peak times from the grid and have it stored for whenever there's peak times that it needs it. It'll be able to resell it back. And basically, it just helps the grid in that area to manage the power needs. So that's what will be planned to take place after this rezone and the process gets approved. So we do recommend, the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as Planning Department recommend that council do approve and adopt the zoning change from R2 to B3 for the, yes ma'am, is that part of number 8?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess that's the information for
It's
this one
just
for the
a
public
public
hearing. Okay, so that was the information. I'll save that part for the number 8, which will tie back to this. Thank you, Amanda. I saw you looking at me.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
getting ahead
then
of
I saw
myself.
possible action, it's just a public hearing.
So again, we would require that they would comply with all sections of the ordinance upon this approval. Are there any questions regarding this rezone?
I mean, there'll be enough buffer to where, I mean, there's no possible adverse risk or possible danger to any of the residential areas. And I just want to make sure there's nothing hazardous or anything that we're allowing to be built, since it was originally done residential.
Correct.
And now we're changing it to industrial, that we want to make sure that we're not taking into account the residents that live in the Lewis Farm Estates.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and we did stress that in going through this process. They assured us that there was no issues. We invited them to be on the call. I'm not sure if they might be present if for the public hearing, if they want to comment on it, but the way that the storage cells, we saw other cities that have done this already in Texas, and they're essentially, they look like the storage containers, like shipping containers with large metal boxes that are full with what kind of looks like several little racks, almost like a server rack, something like that. And so it's a self-contained unit with fire suppression built into it. Again, they said that there's no pollution, no exhaust of any kind out of it, no noise out of it. So we did bring up that question because of the proximity, and they assured us and answered all those questions that there would be no issues to that.
Good evening, Mr. Madeira. This is Brian Harper with Public Power. Just wanted to let you know that I'm on the call as well. That was a fantastic explanation.
Did you like any further?
We're on the call as well if council men and women should have any questions.
De Los Santos.
So the applicants are on the line if you have a further, more detailed questions on it.
They said you answered it.
Yeah, good job, Placido. Any other questions? If not, we'll close this public hearing at 6:14 PM on September 1st, 2020, and we will be taking action on this one on item number 8, okay? We already approved the minutes, and I didn't think we were going to take this long, but thank you, Placido. If you don't mind, we do have District Attorney Robert Serna and Mr. Quiroz, AJ Quiroz, and Mr. Zapata here. So y'all mind if we allow them to go ahead of order?
I don't mind.
All righty. Mr. Serna? Please. Yes, sorry. Moving on, this is item number 14, other business. Presentation by District Attorney Robert Serna for a city contribution amount of up to $60,000 to be used for personnel and prosecutorial services at District Attorney's Office in Maverick County. Mr. Serna?
Yes, thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for the hard work that you've done for your community. I know it's a difficult time for you to serve as public servants, and I commend you, we commend you for the fine work that you're doing on behalf of the citizens of Eagle Pass. Now, we're here to ask for the continued funding of the $60,000 that we have been receiving, this type of funding, not in this amount, but for over 30 years from the city of Eagle Pass. Ever since I became district attorney 30 years ago, it was already in place. Now, I'd like to set out some reasons as to why we need this money, and quite frankly is because without this money, without these $60,000, the district attorney's office simply cannot function the way it's functioning now. We do need this money. We're in a time of crisis, as you know, all of us are, and now it's a time for us to all work together. We've done so during the good times, and now it is more difficult times. It's more important than ever that we work hand in hand to ensure the well-being of the citizens of Eagle Pass. Now, what we do for the city of Eagle Pass is we handle hundreds of cases. We work closely with the Eagle Pass Police Department. We do trainings together. We offer speakers through grants. We do this because we want to make sure that the city of Eagle Pass and the peace officers serving the city of Eagle Pass and the district attorney's office of Eagle Pass are up to date on the law so that we can better serve our communities, specifically the city of Eagle Pass in this instance. Now, I'm going to keep this short because Mr. Yacheta would like to also address the council, and so would Mr. Zapata. However, we handle all the felonies. You can have the best police department, and you do, a very good one. And you have a big police department. If you don't have an effective prosecution office on top of it that handles these cases in court, then they get stuck. You solve your cases, but if you can't prosecute them, they're stuck in the system. That's why we believe it's important for us to work together in order for us to be able not to only work the cases together with the City of Eagle Pass Police Department, but also be able to prosecute these cases. And we're on call 24/7. Unfortunately, we had a murder here in Eagle Pass not too long ago. I was called by the investigating officers, and we provided legal guidance. We told them what was needed, what was not needed. And that's what we do in order to make sure that we are able to present the best possible cases in order to make sure that the administration of justice works. Now, we've always been partners with the City of Eagle Pass as supported by resolution number 2020-22R that was signed by this city council, by the mayor of Eagle Pass on April 7th of 2020, where it states that in section 28 that the Maverick County District Attorney investigators and all other law enforcement partner agencies are authorized to enforce the emergency orders entered into by the mayor to the authority of the city council. Now, again, it's important for us to protect our children, our schools, and our communities, and without effective prosecution, it can't be done. I'd like to go ahead and allow Mr. Yacheta, if I may, to say a few words, but I do want to let you know that I certainly appreciate everything you've done in the past, and now that we need you more than ever, hope that we can continue to receive the $60,000 per year that we receive from the city of Eagle Pass.
Mr. Serna, I have a question.
Sure.
What exactly is this money used for?
It's used primarily, we have 2 investigators assigned to Maverick County. We have one that directly deals with Eagle Pass Police Department cases, but everybody's available. I mean, if there's an investigator at the office, they can talk to the investigator. But we make sure that once these City of Eagle Pass cases come into the office, that we go over them with the investigators for the Eagle Pass Police Department. They come in, they sit down with the investigator from Maverick County, either Eloy Garcia or Clemente de Dios, and we go over the cases. or myself. Like, for example, in the murder case, when detectives came over to talk to me after hours, they went through the information they had of the case, which was a shooting involving an 18-year-old shot in the head. We went over what had been done, what needed to be done, what needed to be sent to forensics, to the lab. So basically, this funding is, a lot of that money goes into the time and effort that are put in not only by the assistant prosecutors, but also by the DA and our investigators to prosecute these Maverick County cases. That, like on that murder case, we're going to present that case eventually to Maverick County grand jury. But that's not going to happen until we get together again with the detectives, go over the case again, make sure that we have the information ready for presentation to a grand jury for their decision. And like I said, whenever they have an issue as to whether or not they need a search warrant, they call one of the investigators from the Maverick County District Attorney's Office, or one of the prosecutors, or myself, and they ask us either to draw up their affidavit or to assist in drawing up the affidavit, or possibly even a search warrant. So, in other words, we are, I guess you can say, truthfully, we are the attorneys for the Eagle Pass Police Department in that sense. When it comes to criminal investigations, they don't have to hesitate and say, well, what do we do now, legally? They can call us, they can call the investigators. They've done so on numerous occasions. Even now with COVID-19, we still have detectives come to the office and look over Eagle Pass cases to make sure that they're done properly and adequately, so we can present them at the appropriate time to a Maverick County grand jury for prosecution. So all of these monies, if you took it if you took it and looked at it, all of the $60,000 go for services provided to the citizens of Eagle Pass, and even more, because the fact that Eagle Pass is a lot larger than the other communities, and there's more crime here simply because it's growing more. And we spend more time, I think, in Eagle Pass Police Department cases than from other cities, simply because it's bigger, it's larger. So the investment that you're making of $60,000 is well spent and exceeded in the services that we provide to the city of Eagle Pass.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If I may yield to Mr. Acheta?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Lacheta?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
First off, thank you for allowing us to jump up in the agenda. I appreciate that. Mayor, City Council, I want to first commend everybody here on your public service. The decisions you make for this community and the effect it has, it's a very heavy burden to bear, and I know none of you take this responsibility lightly. My name is Jaime A.J. Lacheta, and I'm an assistant district attorney for the 293rd Judicial District. Obviously, I'm here regarding the budget issue. These are monies that the district attorney's office has been receiving for over 30-plus years, way before my time. And so I want to say a little bit about the district attorney's office. It's the chief law enforcement office of the 293rd Judicial District. That's Maverick County, that's Dimmitt County, and Zavala counties. So this office, we're responsible for the safety of over 81,000 constituents. And we have a staff of 14. So this is not the time to defund law enforcement, especially the chief law enforcement office in the area. I understand we find ourselves in a very unique time. Unfortunately, crime doesn't stop. Having the district attorney's office sufficiently funded, it's going to improve the effectiveness of our investigations, prosecution of our cases, and ultimately it's going to best serve the citizens of our community. From the beginning of this pandemic, we've continued to work because we're essential workers. Our law enforcement officers are first responders. In fact, they're even mentioned, as Mr. Sena said, in your own declarations. They're listed as first responders. A budget cut of this magnitude, put simply, is going to cost the loss of jobs for our first responders in our office. I don't know how else to say it. These first responders are specifically allocated to work for Eagle Pass and its citizens. So the DA's office, we're here to fight for the citizens of this community and make sure people like murderers, child molesters, drug dealers, and all sorts of other guys are held accountable. So you stood with us and supported us during the good times. I'm here asking that you continue to stand with us during the bad. I humbly ask that you continue to fund the DA's office and help support your first responders, help support law enforcement in your community. If you have any questions that I can answer, be more happy to do my best.
Any questions?
Oh, you do, I have no questions.
Okay. And I respectfully give the floor to Mr. Hugo Zapata. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for allowing us the time to come and talk to you about this issue. I won't repeat what Mr. Serna and Mr. Iracheta said, but I do join in their statements as far as their requests and what they've mentioned in reference to the DA's office. I'll be quick. A lot of you know me. I've been practicing attorney for about 16 years now, and I did a lot of work on the civil side, but I also worked on the criminal defense side before joining the DA's office, which I did about 4 months ago. And I always saw things differently. I saw it obviously from the perspective of my clients and the job I had to do for them. And I never saw it from the end of the DA's office. I was blind to what was going on in there. Since joining, I see a whole different picture. And I believe this is a personal statement. I'm not speaking for anybody. But as a citizen of Eagle Pass, and again, this is just a personal statement, I believe I was taking the DA's office for granted. I only saw my clients. That's it. And what I needed to do for them. Since being there for 4 months, I've been tasked with the difficult task of working on a recent murder case where a young man was unfortunately killed. I've had to speak to a 9-year-old little girl who was molested by her stepfather. And unfortunately, it keeps going. That's just not even scraping the top off. There's drug cases, assaults, family violence, all different. And so it's very important, the job that is done at the DA's office. I can only speak to so far. I've been there for 4 months. I'm not going to sit there and say that I've been doing this for years and working hard. Like I said, I was looking at it from another end. And so, but being there for 4 months, I've seen what it takes and what needs to be done. And the monies that the city has graciously volunteered to the DA's office are very important. Very important. And again, I do echo what Mr. Serna and what Mr. Iracheta said. Is we work closely. In these 4 months, I've worked closely with Eagle Pass Police Department, with their officers, detectives coming in, and obviously in other law enforcement agencies. But it is important. It is important. And this job is important for those, including myself, citizens of this city. I think it's important for our children who are growing up in this city, that these things are taken care of. So again, we respectfully request the continued support from the city. It does a lot. It does a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Zapata.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Before, I know it was just presentation only, or?
Yes.
Before we move on, I just want to say that, thank you, Mr. Serna, Mr. Iracheta, Mr. Zapata. I appreciate what you do, and I think my colleagues here on council would echo the sentiment that we appreciate the efforts of the district attorney's office, and we always have. And we appreciate the collaboration that you team up there with Eagle Pass's finest, our police department, to try to keep our streets and citizens safe at all times. It's not something we take lightly, because safety is number one. If we're not safe, the quality of life just isn't there. And I just want to know that we will do our best to do what we can to continue to support, or at least I'll speak on my own, that I think is very important, and it's to continue to work together with y'all to make sure that we continue that, to make Eagle Pass in our county area. I just say it all together. I know we're as the city of Eagle Pass, but it's still, we're all one family here. And just to keep moving forward and making sure that our citizens are safe at all times, and the enforcement of the law continues to move forward. Thank you for what y'all do.
I also want to thank you all for being here today. As an attorney, I've practiced with all of you, and I've seen the countless cases that go through that district attorney's office, all kinds of serious crimes that have been committed in our community. And for me, when I ran for this position, safety has always been one of the most important things, that our families are safe, the kids are safe, and the district attorneys, I know that you all play a very important role, along with the police department and all the officers, in keeping us safe. There has to be a strong showing there of law enforcement, so we can keep the bad guys out. So we thank you for being here.
Me, like Mr. Zapata, I'm not going to repeat everything that they've said, but obviously I feel the same way. I thank you for all you do. As an educator and as a parent and as a grandma, I feel safety is a number one issue here. And so, again, just thank you for what you all do.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. Look, we're still working on the budget, and I think we got a presentation going on, and we're going to do everything we can to hopefully balance the budget and be able to do everything we have to do. So moving on to...
And I just want to say also, for the record, I agree with the continued funding, even though it's been tight because of the situation, but I think that's something that we should make work, so, thanks.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 5, reports, the monthly departmental reports. Does anybody have any questions for a bridge system?
Yes, I would just like to know, Homer, you on the line?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Hello,
Okay.
Hello, council.
I know that you did send a report, and I'm glad you did, because I think that speaks to what the goal of this was, okay? And I think
Ronnie.
for what I understand, I think our goal was achieved in the sense that what we're trying to do was deter people from actually traveling to Mexico, working together with CBP. You know, I think our goal is to definitely be able to open the bridge permanently. And so in order to do that, we need to make sure that our infection rate is low, you know, to where we can actually accomplish that, you know, not only for bridge crossing, for school, for everything else that we're doing, especially in Maverick County. I think it's not, no news that, you know, our infections rate is very, very high, and that's something that we're trying to accomplish. If I read the report correct, Mr. Valderas, I see that definitely traffic has gone down, and I was, you know, if you can just confirm that that's the case, because it is important, and that was the goal, and I just want to make sure that I know that, you know, it comes with a lot of criticism and stuff, but unfortunately, at some point, we have to make decisions. Sometimes are tough decisions, and that's what we're put here to do, you know, to make decisions. And those decisions are definitely always in the best interest of the majority of our citizens. I know that, you know, unfortunately, not everyone agrees, but as long as that goal was met, Homer, I don't know if you want to go over the numbers or what, but if I understood correct, the traffic has definitely gone down, except for maybe a day, and I'm not sure that, go ahead.
So since the tough decision was made by council and mayor to go forward with increasing the toll rate to deter non-essential traffic from traveling to Mexico, we have seen a decrease. The toll change took effect Wednesday, so obviously it's very recent, so we're still collecting data to see exactly how much of an impact it made. But when we compared from Wednesday up to Monday, compared that to the previous Wednesday to Monday, We did see a decrease of 5.6% traffic daily, totaling 1,341 passenger vehicles that did not cross into Mexico. We also did do an increase in the total for the pedestrian traffic. We did see an increase of 13% in pedestrian traffic to 673, but that still gives us a net of about 700 people or vehicles that didn't go across into Mexico. So I do agree. I know that it's only been 5 full days that we've had these new tolls in effect, but we have seen a dip in the crossing as far as passenger vehicles are concerned. So I do want to say that I'm glad that you mentioned that, you know, it was a tough decision that was taken by council, and I do know that, you know, our toll collectors are feeling it, you know, from the people that are using our bridge, and we just hope that everyone understands, like you said, this is being done in the best interest of public safety, and we won't be able to fully open our bridges to their capacity until the numbers go down. So we hope that, you know, we continue to see a drop in cases, and hopefully that's due to this toll rate that we changed last week.
Mr. Valderas, I also want to thank you for the report. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's an item on the agenda where council's going to discuss the whole issue about the toll raise. I did also receive your report. As you said, we did, as part of that meeting, the rate was also increased for pedestrians. But here in your report, I see that pedestrian traffic, it didn't decrease, it increased, right, by 13%?
That's correct.
So I'm assuming that because of the toll rates, more people are walking, but there is still traffic to Mexico, more by pedestrian, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. So the pedestrians, obviously, you know, it's a single person crossing into Mexico, and yeah, we could say, like I said, it's very recent to be able to use this data to know exactly how much of an impact it made, but one can make that assumption that because of the $1.50 increase in vehicle traffic to Mexico, some people have opted to go walking versus taking their vehicle across.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll retouch that issue later on in the meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Now, just Omer, just for the record, did you add Monday's count there also, or it stayed the way you sent it yesterday?
No, sir. This is through Monday, so this is current as of yesterday.
Okay, the one I have is only until Sunday.
Correct.
Same.
So, all right. All right, any questions for economic development? Finance grants? Now, I forwarded, George, I think you forwarded it to Ronnie and probably Lee also, or Jesse, on that grant from Senator Cornyn's office, that letter we got, and that had to do with something with railroad safety grant. So I don't know if that's something that we can look at to address the issues on Church, on the intersection, the crossing on Church Street, that they don't? Okay, all righty.
I have a question regarding the grants. I remember the issue about the business incubator. Is the city still working on that?
Did we apply already?
Yes.
I mean, any update on that?
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Administration. Right now, EDA has given us pretty much an approval to move forward with their application. They asked for some additional documents, additional information that has been forwarded to EDA. There's one piece that the Texas Historical Commission, they want to make sure that, the building structure, you know, stays the same, that we don't, you know, I guess change the features in that.
Stays with the Main Street.
Mr. Marquez has been working directly with THC, and as a matter of fact, there's been a new rendering. I know Ms. Vanessa's on the line because she had been working with LMB, and so there's been a new rendering submitted to THC. Once we can get that, we should be in good shape. So we're looking forward to that application because it was like $3.5 million.
Yeah,
so.
that would be awesome if the city could get the grant.
It took a lot of work. Councilman Salinas, it was a teamwork, and I know I shared this with Mr. Jesse, that it took a whole village to get this done. I know, Mayor, when Mr. Marcus presented, you said, hey, can you do this in 10 days? It was a challenge for all of us, but everybody got together and we got it done. And so it was awesome teamwork. We're going to continue, looking forward to the final letter. And Mr. Marcus sent EDA an email today, pretty much telling them, where we're at. And so, because they gave us till September the 5th, but everything looks good. So once we get that letter that it's approved, we look forward to having the business incubator here in Eagle Pass.
Thank you for your hard work, you and everybody else that's
It's an
working.
awesome team. I love being with this team. So the team has all worked together, and we're going to continue working together because the results that we got with this teamwork is awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any
And today
other-
we did also, I guess while I'm here, today we did submit the TDA. Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to get the resolution signed again. Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. But we did submit the TDA for the sidewalks. We're looking at $550,000, and our match was the $75,000. And then we submitted the FAST grant for the ambulance. So those were due today. We got those in as well. And then we're also, waiting for others that we've submitted that we're going to be following up with, that, and we've been granted, for the FEMA and others, so right now we've been really busy in that, but we look, forward to continue looking for other grant opportunities. And Mayor, we did get your email, and we'll look at that as well. Any opportunities that you all see, send them to us. And but anything else? I don't know, Mr. Jesse, do you want to add anything else? Yes, and Ms. Vanessa, do you want anything else on the renderings from LNV? No? Nothing?
She may be there, but
Okay.
they haven't unmuted her.
Okay, well, so what the good thing is, again, Mr. Marcus did send EDA the email today, and where we're at, and so, we're in good shape, and so, once we get that one, we'll come back to the council and report that.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going. Any questions for fire department? Government relations lobbyist consultant, Mark Rodriguez, any questions? Human resources? Human resources, I guess this is for fire and PD. How many candidates do we have on those tests and that are still in the process of being hired for PD and fire department? Would that be the chiefs or HR? You're HR today, chief. Make sure part of their check goes to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have 6 vacancies right now. We're as a matter of fact, today, right before the meeting, we're almost done with our background investigations, and there's 2 background investigations that we do. One is through civil service, which the police department does, and then one that HR does. And then we combine them together and we go into the next stage, which will be the interview process. Right now, I'm very glad to say that aside from the fact we have 6 vacancies, we have a very good number of candidates, and some of them are licensed already. So we're looking at about 6 or 7 people that are already licensed, and we might be looking at possibly interviewing up to 10 candidates for a police officer. We're closing off 2 vacancies that we have on communications dispatcher, and I'm looking for that 3rd candidate. Tomorrow I'm going to get an answer that 3rd candidate comes on board, and if everything goes well, and hopefully we can just keep our ducks lined in a row and everything falls through, I would say that hopefully by the end of November, December, we might be at a 100% full capacity in Eagle Pass Police Department. And that's
Good.
It's been a long time. But, and I thank my staff for doing an excellent work. I thank HR as well, because it's a lot of work through civil service to make sure we follow the process under the Texas Government Code. And we do that very thoroughly. So, yes, right before this meeting, Lieutenant Gary Fuentes came and handed me all the background investigations and our applicants, and I'll have to review tomorrow, hopefully, and then we go into the interview process. Once after that, we go into we have to do the psychological, the physicals, and then the final submission to HR, who we're going to select.
So you've got plenty of candidates still there?
Yes, sir, we do, Mayor.
Good.
We do.
Good.
And so we're looking healthy as far as, in that respect, and we'll be finalizing hopefully everything by next week. to move forward to the interview process.
All right.
So,
Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Thank you.
International Center for Trade, Library, Municipal Court, Parks and Recreation. Parks, I hear you have some virtual stuff going on, so let's see if the kids can get on it and participate in that. So, creative thinking there. Police, code enforcement?
Chief, and quick question on the code enforcement. I know that we had, at a previous meeting, we talked about an issue about it was like a shop back there on that area on Veterans. And I think you were gonna look into it along with Mr. Madera. I wanted to see what the follow-up was, because I did get more phone calls from the neighbors.
And thank you, and we discussed this just briefly, Mr. Madera and I. What we're looking at is that part of that subdivision, it's an R2, definitely is R2, which is, residential. But in our code enforcement, I was looking into it, they went to the appraisal district, and supposedly what I understand is that part of the lot toward the rear, it's zoned in, but it's not part of the R2, and we're making an assessment on that, make sure that we follow through with that, and Mr. Mayor and I spoke about it, as a matter of fact, yesterday, and I know Mr. Andrea as well asked me, so we're looking into that, Mr. Salinas.
Thank you, Chief.
We're going to follow through, and
Yes.
yes.
I appreciate it. And I don't know this person that called me and with his concerns,
Right.
but I understand that he's a neighbor and I've seen that.
And I,
Is there houses adjacent to that property next to it? or-
Yes.
It's behind the backyard fence, rear fence of several.
Oh, okay,
properties.
so it's not like a lot in between homes?
No.
That's why it's not zoned?
No,
or-
you see, if you walk into these people's backyards,
Developed land, yeah.
you see
Okay.
the entire stretch of heavy equipment.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of heavy equipment and this is a residential area and they're fixing heavy machinery, I believe. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Chief Guajardo's comments. What we're gonna do, Mr. Antuna reached out and said, I think a better way to approach this is to overlay the map and show our zoning map on that particular area because there's dispute from the owner. Obviously, they don't think that they're in the wrong. They think that that's outside, they're claiming possibly outside of city limits and therefore not, zoned as R2 or an abstract that was never zoned R2. So we want to show that through an overlay map of our zoning, sitting it on top of their area to make it more clear and then, hopefully be able to come to an agreement once we can show them that. So that's going to be the next process we're working on now.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Public Works? I mean,
No, the only thing, I'm gonna just go back on Parks and Rec, because I know that I had visited with some of the guys from Parks and Rec, and they had come up with some different ideas of things that they could do. I just would like to see if they had met, I don't know if they've met with Mr. Antuna or the director. I would like to see if they can bring some of that ideas for us, because, they were coming up with new things that they can do that are recreational outside of just the more traditional stuff, and we might be able to outreach to other members of our community that would be interested in partaking in those.
Absolutely. After you and I spoke, we did reach out to the department, or I did reach out to the department, and it's something that we definitely, aside from the virtual component that we
Right.
discussed, that's right now, that is what we can do as far
Right.
as the virtual component. The other items that we discussed that was relayed to me, to relay to you and to others is that, yes, for sure, once we're up and running 100%, we're definitely going to take advantage of something of that nature. But right now, we're limited to the virtual component. But sir, once they cut us loose, we're out there. And so,
No, I just want us to be ready with some of these ideas
Absolutely.
once, because we have to also think of the idea of post-COVID or whatever the new normal may be. But we need to be able to offer our citizens something, because people need some kind of escape from, from the grim reality of what we're living in now. And like when I use the term loosely post-COVID because we don't really know if there is such an idea. But like I said, I just want us to be able to offer our citizens something.
Absolutely.
And honestly, Mr. Gued and Ricky had come by, I spoke with them, and they had some pretty neat ideas. I think we need to allow them we need to give them the support system in place to make sure that they're allowed to work. I mean, because that's what they're wanting to do. I mean, you know, it's like I said, it was sort of a conversation, and I'll be very frank with you, because he was as a customer of mine, and as, it was after hours, you know,
Sure.
city business, but I mean, we started talking on other things, and, you know,
Absolutely.
you know,
I'm
so.
telling tell you one thing, nobody has a monopoly on creativity, right?
Right,
And so right now, it's open season on that.
exactly.
And so right now, we're definitely looking at other ways to be able to service our residents. Obviously, the virtual component is right now what we're
Just
kind of
and advice, I don't know
limited.
if you know, today, Mr. Boyad and Mr. Montiel, they did work over on a video, and today they put the first virtual out today around 4:15.
Yeah.
And so that's
The
what they're
virtual,
gonna be
it's
doing
on
on a
that.
weekly basis, putting out different ideas that they've been doing, Ricky and Juan, in conjunction with the media department. So today, the first video was put out, and the last time we checked, it had a lot of shares, and a lot of people were viewing the video, and then they'll be posting something on Friday. So on a weekly basis, they'll be posting something from Parks and Recreation to make sure that they keep the community active. And Mr. Cuellar and Ricky did come to us and come to Carlos, and they're working with Mr. Sanchez to make sure we put those out as often as possible.
Thank you, Aide, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
We were at Public Works City Shop, Tax Office. All right, I apologize, Mr. Barrera, Mr. Flores, but I believe your item number 10, if you don't mind, we'll go through that, because
Nah, he likes to wait.
they like to wait. He likes meetings, and, you know. Well, what we'll move on to item number 10. That's the one, right? Consideration and possible approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Eagle Pass, Texas, approving the delay of the effective date of the fifth-year increase of the water and wastewater utility service rates specified in Article 1, Chapter 27, Section 27-26A and B, Division 3 and Section 27-30, Division 3 and Article 2, Chapter 27, Section 27-52A, Division 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eagle Pass, Texas, from October 1st, 2020 to October 1st, 2021, further recommending that the City Council of the City of Eagle Pass, Texas, approve the amendment of ordinance number 2016-24 and Article 1, Chapter 27, Section 27-26A and B, Division 3 and Section 27-30, Division 3 and Article 2, Chapter 27, Section 27-52A, Division 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eagle Pass, Texas, to delay the effective date of the fifth-year increase of the water and wastewater utility service rates specified in Article 1, Chapter 27, Section 27-26A and B, Division 3 and Section 27-30, Division 3, and Article 2, Chapter 27, Section 27-52A, Division 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Eagle Pass, Texas, from October 1st, 2020 to October 1st, 2021, finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed is open to the public as required by law, providing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date. Mr. Barrera?
Council, Mayor, I think that was written by our council.
Yeah,
I think Mr. Madero put that in there for him to read along.
yeah, just to pay back for his reason.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. I'll just make this real quick. This was something that was recommended to the Eagle Pass Waterworks Board. In 2016, it was recommended that we do 5 rate increases for all the projects that we have ongoing. We've already done 4. The last one was this October. But as you can see, everything that's going on in the world with COVID, it's really affected a lot of people. So we recommended to the Waterworks Board to make a decision and recommend to the City Council to maybe delay for 1 year at least, and then we can take a look at it. But delay for this coming year, the last rate increase, to really try to help out, or not majorly help, but try to help out the residents of our community with by not giving the final increase. So we do want to recommend that.
Thank you, and I know we've looked at it from the Waterworks Board, and Finance was able to determine that we'd be okay in terms of the funding and the bonds that went out for and the way wording was written.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for that work and also.
I'm sure our citizens will appreciate the delay in any increase, especially right now,
What's
so.
going on? Yes, sir.
Do you need a motion?
Preliminarily,
Yes.
by doing so, it will not affect any of the compromises with the bonds. I mean, the way it was worded, that the increases would happen. I mean, there's no legal issues in that aspect. Not that I want an increase,
Right.
but I want to make sure that we do things that are correct.
We took a look at it.
Okay.
We took a very close look at it. It won't be as good as we wanted to, but I think this will really help out, and we'll meet all the coverages that we need to meet, so we should be okay.
And that's the main thing we asked for on the Waterworks Board. Are they gonna be able to cover the expenses and finance? And even bond counsel said it was good.
So we'll see what happens next year. We'll take a look at it to see how the coverages look, but at least this year, we want things to normalize. Yes, sir.
So move.
No second?
The motion made by Councilwoman Ramon, second by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Any further questions for Mr. Herrera? Mr. Flores, did you want to say a few things?
No, this is pretty straightforward.
Do you want to reread the?
No, read that thing again.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Georges.
Now we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, so going back to 6, item number 6, keep me on track, Imelda. Ordinances, item number 6, consideration and possible approval of an ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the City of Eagle Pass, Texas for the 2020-2021 fiscal year and establishing procedures of formal approval by September 15, 2020, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law, providing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
Mayor, council, all of you should have the printout of the presentation in front of you, hopefully you do. And if any of you need another copy of the proposed budget, we do have extra copies here. Okay, so we're getting close. We're 2 weeks away from what I think is the most important meeting of the year. We're adopting the budget. So on that first slide, we do have the calendar of events. Through our first 2 workshops, we did file our budget with the city secretary's office, and we posted it online as we're required to. So today we have our first reading of our budget. Next Tuesday, we have the planned second reading and the required public hearing. So we do have a publication going out to be printed tomorrow announcing the public hearing, and then finally adoption on the 15th. So I always start these budget discussions with this slide just to show all of the funds that the city has. And again, I really point out that first line for the general fund under the column that says net change, that number for a proposed budget needs to be 0. So this number right here, showing that it is a balanced budget as of today. So I do have to just make the comment that this is a proposed budget. Council can change this at any time during the next 3 readings. However, if something is added, something must be decreased somewhere else in order to keep the budget in balance. So just to go over, just broadly, when we talk about our resources. So for this upcoming fiscal year, we have just under $37 million in revenue that the city is expected to receive. So this just shows you a breakdown of where that revenue comes from. And you'll see that more than half of it comes from charges for services. And so the majority of that is the International Bridge. So charges for services will bring in just under $20 million. So in this case, 12 million, just under 12 million will come from the bridge. Then we have our trash fees, which are about 5 million. And then we have services like ambulance service and other services like that that make up the rest. But more than half of the money that the city uses does come from charges for services. Then the next largest amount is from property taxes, and then sales taxes, and then smaller amounts for licenses, fines, interest, and then other taxes. When we talk about how we spend the money, in this case, we're asking authorization to spend just over 37 million. Again, we're going to spend more than what we receive, but it's because we're going to use reserves, and we'll go over that shortly. So we're expected to spend just over 37 million, and almost a third of that is spent on public safety, then 9% for infrastructure, 11% for health and sanitation, 9% for parks and recreation, 15% for debt service, 5% for the operations of the International Bridge, 2% for educational services, which is the public library, and then other governmental services, which is basically all the city hall services. So when we talk about government, we do not budget as one whole. You know, we don't budget just a revenue of 37, expenses of 37. For transparency purposes, we break things into funds. And so the general fund is called the general fund because everything is lumped into it that is not restricted for another purpose. So most of the departments within the city do fall under the general fund, so it is the largest. And so within the general fund, you do see that on the last column, we do have a balanced budget at just under $25.5 million. So we have property taxes at $5.4 million. We have sales taxes at $4.7 million, franchise taxes at $1.2, the transfer from the International Bridge at just under $10 million, ambulance service at $1.1, and then other revenue of $3 million. Most of the expenditures for the general fund are personnel. So out of that $25 million, over $16 million will be for personnel, then 1.3 for supplies, 2.5 for contracts, 1.6 for other services, and then 3.2 for transfers out. So one of the important questions is, well, how did we get here? We have a balanced budget where we had to make some changes to get here. And so about 2 months ago, we had our first workshop, and we presented the figures based on what the departments had submitted to us. So the process works where the departments submit all the requests for the next fiscal year. We project the revenues, and then we came to council just showing the raw data based on their requests. So at that point, we had a $6.8 million deficit. So what did we do? One of the items that's up for consideration for council that's already built into this budget is we are proposing to move to self-funded health insurance, which should save just over $400,000. We did decrease contributions to others, which is a decrease of $135,000. We did discuss temporary hiring freezes in previous meetings where basically a non-public safety position becomes vacant. We hold it for a certain amount of days just to accumulate savings, and then the department can proceed in filling it. So that allows us to save money. So that's estimated at $200,000. We did revise the revenue estimates for the International Bridge. We've talked about how, we're not sure when the restriction on non-essential travel will be lifted, but our assumption is through November 30th. So before that, our assumption was January 2021. So by moving that forward, that's additional revenue that we could anticipate receiving. We did revise other revenue estimates, like our sales tax. In the previous workshop, we talked about that we have been projecting about a 15% decrease after what has transpired in the last 2 months, where we basically rebounded to the amount of sales tax we were receiving before COVID. We revised that amount as well. We're still projecting a 10% decrease in sales tax next year, just to be conservative. But by increasing the amount that we expect to receive, well, that's additional money that is in our budget. We are proposing reducing capital improvement projects next year. We did discuss how, with that uncertainty, we have to figure out what's our priority. And so here we are considering removing $750,000 from future projects that have not even started. We are also proposing decreasing transfers. So by decreasing transfers, we do not mean that we are decreasing their funding for the next year. We're just allowing these funds to use the savings that they've built up during the last several years. So the library had built up just over $200,000. We're saying, well, let's use $100,000 of that. The bridge, we mentioned before that the ordinance had required that every year $500,000 be put aside for future projects. We talked about just deferring that for one more year, so that's the $500,000 listed there. We have the one-time transfer from solid waste. Again, in the last 5 years, we've not transferred anything from the solid waste department. It's been self-sufficient, the general fund has not needed funding, but because of the year that we're in, because of the dire straits regarding the bridge, we are making that recommendation to transfer $500,000 from the solid waste department. They had built up a reserve over the last several years, but, when the general fund, needs money, we have to look at what are the options that will not interfere with the operations. So that's on there as well. We do have a decrease in the transfer to streets and sidewalks. Once again, they've built up a reserve over the last several years. So we're proposing that they use that reserve. And then most importantly, there's been $2.2 million across all departments that have been cut. And I do really want to thank the departments who have gone through their budgets. We've met several times with several departments, and they've willingly proposed cuts because they understand the situation that we're in. And so I really do want to thank them for their cooperation. Sometimes we didn't agree on everything, but in the end, we came to an agreement, on what we wanted to propose to council. So those are the items that got us from 6.8 million all the way down to a balanced budget.
Yes, on the revision of the International Bridge, did you say that's the figure through November?
Yes.
Or through January?
No, so that's the figure through November. So and we did have, in the previous workshop, I mentioned that if things go longer, then we will have to tap in to other projects. So the 750,000, so let me go over the 3 projects that have not yet started that we're considering pausing until we know what happens. So we had the HVAC and roof repairs for City Hall and multipurpose. Then we have the hike and bike trail that we had set aside $2 million for. And then we have the Riskin building. So the Riskin building, we had set aside some funding for. Fingers crossed, the grant comes through and that money can now be used for other purposes. Now, if things get better in November and we get the grant, well, that's great because now we can do more projects with that money that's left over. But for now, what we're proposing is just putting a pause to those projects until this situation clears up, we know where we stand, and then we can move in whatever direction we need to. God forbid it does go February, March, April, we will have to start looking at using up those funds or other measures if necessary. So for now, it's really hard when we talk about a budget because we have to figure out, what's the more likely scenario. And with this, we honestly have no idea what the most likely scenario is.
What's the estimate reduction in revenues from the bridge right now per month? 4.5?
So we were seeing $500,000. Now we're at about 600,000 with our projection for this month. So 600,000 lost every single month.
Every month.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, so going to talk about the International Bridge System. So in 2019, we did make just over $14 million. For the proposed next year, we are projecting 11.5. Again, this is through November. So it is a very, very significant decrease. It's $2.7 million less. And so their operations continue. Their operations we're not touching. What we are touching is that $500,000 contribution that was in there in the past. So once we take all of their expenses into consideration, that's how we arrive at this number here, which is the amount that gets transferred to the general fund. So as you'll see, they had a $1.5 million reserve. And so we are tapping into some of that, but they still have a reserve of $1.3 million.
They still have the reserve of how much?
1.3
1.3.
million.
Okay. Sí, es que ya para acá. ¿Dónde está? Aquí está. Ok. No, aquí está.
So the next major fund, is there any more questions on the bridge system?
No.
Okay.
Por eso no miraba yo.
I can see it because it's lighter.
So the next major fund is the Environmental and Solid Waste Fund. So this fund accounts for the solid waste system, for recycling, for street and property cleaning. And so the fees that are collected there are the majority of that, the $5.2 million that are made by the Environmental and Solid Waste Fund are collected by Waterworks through that $13.50 fee for city residents, $16.50 fee for county residents, and then some commercial accounts, of course. And then those are the expenditures there. So 1.9 million for personnel, 700,000 for supplies, 1.5 million for contracts. So that contract amount, it's high, but that's the amount that we pay Maverick County landfill for disposing of our trash at a fee of $40 per ton. 58,000 for other services, and then 979,000 for capital. And then, of course, that transfer out that I mentioned from solid waste to the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you'll see that their reserve started at 2 million. Taking all this into consideration, they will still have a $1.6 million reserve.
What you're taking from the reserves is for their current budget, not actually, right? It's actually for their current budget. It's not necessary, I mean, for their proposed budget.
For the proposed budget, correct.
Right, okay. That's what I'm seeing, because it's in lieu of the transfer out.
And then the final major fund that we like to emphasize is the debt service fund. So the debt service fund, what we need to account for is the payments to be made in the next fiscal year. So at the very bottom under expenditures, you'll see that we have principal payments due of $3.3 million and interest payments due of $2.2 million. So we have just over $5.6 million in debt payments to make. Where does that money come from? Well, the majority comes from property taxes. It comes from the INS rate that we assess. Right. And so we're expected to bring in just over $3.2 million. Then the ICT, they pay their own debt, so it's $275,000. Storm drainage, we had the presentation of the drainage master plan. Right. So that $6.6 million that we have, well, storm drainage is paying off that debt with a $382,000 payment. And then the general fund is paying $1.7 million of the debt. And that's in order to keep the tax rate low. So several years ago, we determined that, we don't want to increase taxes. We want to take on all these projects. But there was a commitment that had to be made where the general fund would pay it rather than taxpayers pay it. So, of course, that fund is balanced. Now, it wasn't my intent to go into detail into these funds. So special revenue funds are smaller funds, and they are required to be separate because either the federal government or the state government or the city council has said, keep this money separate. And so we have funds like the room tax fund, the public library, our auto theft grant, our HIDA grant, recreational programs fund, parkland dedication, Main Street, our municipal court restricted fund, convention center and tourism, our public educational governmental access, storm drainage, streets and sidewalks, and debt service. So I really do not intend to go too much in detail because we have discussed them in the previous workshops. Unless there are specific questions on any of them, we can discuss. But I did want to point out one fund in particular. It has to do with room tax. Because this is the fund that is going to be the most impacted next year. Oh, for sure. Because it is a tax on hotel rooms, less usage means less revenue. And so you'll see that in 2020, the current year, we had projected $900,000. For next year, we're projecting basically half of that. And so that has consequences. And so the primary consequence is that the room tax provides funding to the convention center. And so the convention center no longer has enough money, and so now the general fund had to put in more money to fund the convention center. So it does cause an effect on not just the room tax fund, it causes an indirect effect on the general fund. Because the civic center still needs to operate, it's just who's going to pay the bill. Well, room tax can't, so general fund has to step in and pay additional. The next thing that it will affect is the room tax committee, because we have less money to give, and so these are events, music events, art events that we have during the year. It's really hard to gauge for this as well because right now we don't expect any events, but we do expect at some point during the year for events to start occurring. We don't know when, but we will have less money than in previous years to give out to organizations who have these events. So again, we have these other funds. We did discuss them in other meetings, but They're a lot smaller in terms of dollars. I don't know if there's any specific questions on any of them, or would you like for me to go through them? Like I said, we've discussed them in previous meetings. Nothing has really changed with these funds. Let's see. There's really nothing new or out of the ordinary. The only exception probably would be the Streets and Sidewalks Fund, which again, I mentioned that we're going to allow them to use their reserves. So you'll see that their revenue is 700,000 and their expenses are going to be 1.1 million. So we're not going to affect the operations of the streets program. We're just going to allow them to use their own money that they already have rather than the general fund paying additional money into them. Is there any other questions on any fund or anything that, any other items?
Okay, I do have a few questions for the budget. I don't know if I should bring them up here or we can discuss this in executive session, Mayor. I don't know how.
The legal question?
Well, not necessarily, but I do have a couple of questions. If you, I don't know if I'm allowed to do it.
You can do.
Yes.
If you're not sure if it's legally to ask, then you do it illegal.
You can do it now. If it's a legal question, I recommend that we go into executive session.
No, I don't think it is. It's just a few things that I saw here that I didn't see before, or I'm sorry, I apologize. Like I said last time, I didn't pay attention to it. It is a thick, and for those of us that are not very good with numbers, you know, sometimes it takes a couple of readings, but I did see, for example, on page 6, okay? And unless, you know, and it could happen, you know, my mind does not serve me right, but it does say here, but sometimes it says, at the, what is it, first, second paragraph there, it says, okay, you have the full-time positions through attrition, which you already addressed that. You have movements of custodial department. You have 200,000 for contracted management services for the Eagle Pass Sports Complex. I don't know if we need to, or we should, or we have discussed any of this. Contributions to other agencies.
That's
I
gonna be
did
a
see.
discussion.
Huh?
That'll be a later discussion, isn't it?
Well, but it's included in the budget.
Yes, yeah, you're correct. And so this is a slide that, if you don't mind, if I can just go through the slide.
Go right ahead.
We're going to touch on some of those items that you mentioned.
Go right ahead.
And so this is just the highlights, the main things that stand out that are different from previous years. And so, of course, number one, it's a balanced budget, which is very, very important. That the property tax equals last year's rate, so there is no property tax increase, and this will be the 5th year that the city does not have a property tax increase.
I believe I saw somewhere, or maybe somebody made a comment that the city was raising property taxes.
No.
The city is not raising, so I don't know where some people got that.
So, you know.
This is one thing that, I mean, we're the ones that decide.
Right.
But the thing is, what they might think is if houses are valued higher, the valuation of a house increases, I mean, theoretically, you know, your rates are going to go up, but the amount you pay, not the rate.
Right.
Yes.
I just
Probably what they're alluding.
wanted to clear it up.
And
Yeah.
incorrect, and the state has passed several laws that have tried to clarify, but I think may have confused some people.
I think they've muddied the waters.
Yeah, and because they could, and it's on page one of the document, these are everything that the state requires to be on page 1. And one of the statements has to say that we're gonna raise more revenue than the previous year. We're required to disclose that because it's true. We're gonna make more money than the previous year. And so it specifies how much is from new property that didn't exist before, how much is improvements. So, you know, when you talk about, I think in the future meeting, we're gonna have an item to approve the tax increase in the budget. Well, yes, it's a tax increase because we're gonna receive more money. We're not increasing the rate, but we are gonna receive more revenue. So, you know, as cities grow, that's what you want, is to keep the rate flat, decrease it when you can.
You have a higher tax
but
base.
Your base grows and you make more money. So that's the whole idea. But the state requires us to disclose these things, you know, notice of increase, when the rate is actually staying the same.
Excellent.
Then the next item, it doesn't include that transition to a self-funded health insurance plan. It does not include pay adjustments and does not include longevity pay for non-public safety employees. So public safety employees are required to receive longevity by law. Other employees were added, and it's actually in the ordinance that says when funding is available, then we will give it to other employees. So we're not incorporating into this budget. I do have to make a comment on that because I get the comments every single year when it comes to pay adjustments. And because we are required to disclose salaries within the budget, and so they're listed there, that people sometimes misinterpret what those salaries are. So what we're looking at is the position, and I'll give you the perfect example within my department. Mr. Madera was in our department last year, so his salary as assistant finance director shows as last year's salary, and now Ms. Ana de la Garza is the assistant finance director this year. So there's two different salaries. It doesn't mean that that person's pay was changed. It means a different person was there before and now it's another person. And employees do question certain things like that. Why is this person getting a raise? They're not getting a raise. It's just a happenstance of how we adopted last year's budget. Because when we presented last year's budget, it was last August and based on the information we had at the time. So if something changed after that, or if somebody new came in after October, well, they weren't part of the adopted budget. Okay. So, just wanted to clarify that. So you may see a position where the pay rate went up or down, but the person didn't receive any change in their pay. It was just
a change of position.
So if somebody was transferred to a different position, they took their salary with them.
Correct. And so let's say they were
not necessarily took their salary with them because there's some adjustments.
Well, yes.
Up and down. There's different adjustments.
Yeah, so
it was based on the pay scale of what was actually budgeted, but based on also their tenure with the city. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, because if somebody was at step 14, which is our max for that pay grade, they retire. The next person comes in. Well, they're not going to be paid step 14. They're going to be paid step 1.
Wherever they were.
And so, or wherever they deserve to be. So it's just I just want to make sure that information is well stated because it does happen every single time we do publish the budget.
No kidding.
Then we are proposing to purchase just over $1.6 million in equipment, and this includes equipment like ambulances and police units and trash trucks and several different items that are listed within the budget. And it does include the removal of 5 full-time employees and an upgrade of 8. And then the transfer of custodial services department to the public works department and the consolidation of security personnel in the police department. Then some new funding items that are included are an economic development master plan and the management services for the sports complex. And to your question on that, Councilwoman Ramon, the idea is that as a privately managed system, we feel that it would probably be best for us because we've never ventured into that type. It's going to be a multi-use system, so it's going to be, for leagues, but it's also going to be public use. So we really want to see what's out there in terms of anybody who's qualified to run that type of system. Because if we did take this on, we would need more personnel because it's such a massive facility. And of course, we want to make sure that it looks nice at all times. And so, we will take an investment. So what we want to evaluate is, well, is it more beneficial to have this as an in-house service, or do we want a company to come in who knows how to manage these facilities
But
and
see,
take care of
the
it?
problem with that, Jesse, and I think I've said it over and over and over, I think the problem with that is, we venture out and we bring in all these companies. But then those people end up hiring people from here that, I don't understand what that works. I just believe in educating and growing our own people, so that maybe in the future, that's something that can be done, I mean, I just hear, it's because we need somebody from outside. At what point are we going to utilize our people? At what point are we going to help our people grow? I know this is a beautiful facility. It's something that's going to need management. But at this point, we really don't know. We really don't even know what's going to happen and when we're going to be able to use this, So, again, I might be wrong, And I just, I want to stand corrected if I am wrong, because I'm also a team player and I can agree if something it's right. But I just have a problem, a huge problem with us always trying to venture out. Does that mean that our people here are not qualified enough to hold any of those positions? Because if that's the case, then we got an issue. We have to go out there and talk to the colleges, universities. How do we prepare these people? Because if we're going to be hiring people from out of town all the time, we're not helping out the community at all. We're not helping ourselves out at all, And I just vented here, I'm sorry, but go on. But, that's just the way I feel strongly about it, very strong about it.
It's not set in stone, but it's something they need to explore, because, we're either gonna hire more personnel, and it's probably gonna cost the same, or we can look at what we did at the golf course.
Yeah.
We brought in a professional group that specializes in that, and we've had many more compliments than ever in the past. And is it a done deal? No. Do we have people that are qualified? You know what? If there are, they can also apply for it.
And see, and that's what I'm saying.
This is not limiting anybody from proposing a plan, because we do know we have people that go to those type of facilities all the time, and I know that a lot of the facilities in other communities are run that way with a professional group running it. So it's something we need to explore, and if it can offset the cost of maintaining it, then that's a good thing. And if it's going to be too much more, then we're going to have to explore if it's better for us to be.
What's better, but that's what I want to hear before we actually say, oh, we went out. I don't know. I just feel, look, I'm going to give you a simple example, okay? Very simple. There's an Applebee's in Del Rio, there's an Applebee's in Uvalde. Why don't we have one here? In talking to the management person one time, you know what he told me? And it was quite embarrassing, because he says, oh, whereas, because here we have not been able to find somebody that can run a restaurant, And I'm thinking, okay, well then that's where we come in. How do we get these people ready? They closed it down, but they're opening Del Rio, they're opening Uvalde. Why? Why does that happen? Why can't we, concentrate on that? Same thing here, right now we're running the city. A lot of these people are not even reporting to work, and we're still running it. So a lot of those employees, they need to be placed somewhere. We have, right now we have a city manager, we have an assistant city manager. Hey, they're both degree, they're both ready. Hey, could that be a possibility, within ourselves here? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't think we're thinking outside of the box when we come to that, okay? And I know that we're not making the decision here. I just want us to think of all those things when we're, thinking of stuff like this.
No, I totally understand.
Going back to the one on capital equipment, that is also taking into consideration some of the grants that we had talked about, because I remember we had talked about a grant not too long ago about the ambulance and stuff like that. Is that also reflected in that number, or is that not, because in case we don't get it?
Well, so
Because I know it's matching or something, or contribution or something, but
yes, and
I don't have those notes with me to give you the exact.
And you know what? And I'm going to use a perfect example here, Jesse. And Mr. Madera, excuse me for using you as an example. But, that was a position that we were looking to fill with somebody from out of town, because we didn't have anybody qualified here. And I think he's doing an excellent job, okay? I know he's still in the learning process, and that, that was an opportunity that was not going to be given to him, because we just needed somebody with experience from out of town. He's gaining the experience, he's gaining the knowledge, he's local, and he's doing great, That's just an example of what I'm talking about, developing our own people.
Mayor Pro Tem, so page 109, we have the list of all the capital equipment that's included there, and so we do have the ambulance listed there. So we actually had this conversation with the grant agency, because we were concerned with, what if we budget for it, will we get disqualified if, we're applying for a grant when we can afford it? And basically they were okay with this, because we told them is, hey, if we weren't going to, we need an ambulance, we're going to get it one way or another. We'd rather get it through the grant and use this money for something else. So they were okay with that justification, so the ambulance is in here. If we do get it through the grant, then that money just is free up.
We actually answered directly my question, because because I did see it on there, but that's why I was asking if it's not.
Yes.
You read my mind. That'll work.
That's experience, it's called experience.
That'll work. That'll work. Don't read too much, but it's okay.
So the last slide on here has to do with those personnel that I mentioned. And so we do have the proposed removal of full-time positions. And again, I must reiterate, nobody is losing their jobs. These are positions that are vacated that we are considering just eliminating. So the first one has to do with my department, our senior accountant. So our senior accountant did resign last month. Her family was moving. And so we thought, you know what, if we're requesting departments to make cuts in this year, you know, we can too. We can tighten up our belt. But you'll also see that there's a proposed reclassification to upgrade one of our accounting clerks to an accountant. And so all in all, the net will save about $50,000. But we are proposing removing one and distributing those duties. But since somebody is getting significantly more work, we think it's only fair to upgrade that position.
You're removing it or freezing?
But we're removing it from the budget.
Okay, but
And
as far
promoting somebody from within, right? Is that what
but
you-
as far as the position being there, you're gonna remove the position or just the funding for the year?
Well, we're removing the position from the budget.
Because we're gonna reallocate the
Yes.
duties.
I guess in the future, if things get better and you need someone.
Correct.
you can-
Yeah, the issue is that, so somebody else is going to be taking on the work, so would it justify another position? We'll have to evaluate it, but that's the proposal we have right now. So all in all, it will save just over $50,000. Within the marketing department, we are proposing removing the public relations specialist. In the police department, we do have the removal of the administrative clerk 2. So the administrative clerk 2 was not filled. It was a position that was intended to assist with code enforcement. But after discussing with the chief felt that we could reorganize better and maybe not need this position. So, that's a proposal. He's one of the departments that's made a lot of cuts within his department, so I really do appreciate all the work that he's done. But one of the proposals he had was just to restructure and, just not fill the position. It may be a position that may come up in the future as needed, but he thinks that based on that restructuring, we'll be okay. And then within the Parks and Recreation Department, we do have the removal of 2 groundskeepers. I do have to make a note on that because what we're proposing is to grow the contract with Green Company. So when we shifted positions from the Parks Department to Public Works, we gave a lot of that work to the Green Company. And so the idea was that as positions became vacant, we could give more work to the Green Company. Ultimately, it is cheaper with using contracted services for that. So that's why we feel that it's the best.
You mean
for the
it's more
city.
cost effective?
A cost effective.
Yes.
And how about,
Cost effective.
Jesse, and how about we've never really gotten a report on any of this, I guess, contracts that we gave out, or I don't know if that's the proper word to use, but that we awarded. We've never really gotten an update as to what's going on. Was it better? Was it cost effective? Was it, not necessarily just cost effective, but the quality of work.
Of course.
I would like to hear something about that. I know that we're not ready for it right now, maybe, but I would like to hear it because, like right now, you're asking us to reassign to more. Really, we don't even know if that has, worked or anything. How can we?
Just if you could provide us the parks that they're responsible for, and that way we can look at that.
Yeah, because my concern is, because I know you're saying 2 groundskeepers from parks. We had transferred some out before from parks. We're really downsizing that department, like the park side or recreation, I don't know, I guess whichever, but I want to make sure that, what we're doing, because I want to make sure that we're not also weakening the department so much that when things change, or if we start growing, that these contracts might become more costly than actually doing things in-house. So I want to make sure, and I guess it's right based on what you're saying, we actually need to revisit some of those contracts to make sure that we are doing what the initial intent was. Because I don't want to just be reassigning people and weakening departments at the same time.
As far as the actual work, I do see that the Green Company very often, that especially at the park by the Debona Park, they do keep it very nice, so they're doing that right, so.
Yeah, no, but for the next meeting, we'll definitely come back with something more
Please.
structured to go over. Then we do have the transfers of full-time employees, so basically moving all of the custodial staff to Public Works. That is still something that the administration is not set in stone on, trying to figure out the logistics on everything, what would be best. But as of right now, published within the budget, that's what's included.
And what would be the rationale for that, Jesse?
The custodial staff, for what, the ones that are work where?
So right now, they're all consolidated under the direction of Ida Castaño.
But
So-
the custodial staff at the ICT or where?
No, she's responsible for all of them. And so basically, just moving that division
How
that's
many
under her.
employees is that?
I believe it's 10, if I'm not mistaken.
And what's the rationale for, I'm sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
No, I just don't agree with that. I see how much work public.
You're throwing a lot of public works.
And I think, where's the custodian at?
That area needs
That
to be
department
overseen.
needs to be in charge of that custodian. So the ones here need to be handled by administration here. The library needs to be handled by the library. They got some at parks, they gotta be handled by park. I mean, that's the way I see it at the school district. They do have one
By
person.
campus or whatever.
I think it's very hard to manage, just.
I see it very difficult for Public Works to take on another supervisory role, maintaining our own buildings, when that should be the job of the directors within the departments, if they have them.
So the main issue that arose and why we chose to consolidate them last year had to do with a lot of the times there's one custodian. And so they go on vacation and nobody's
Come
there.
back, so you cannot cover.
And so by putting them together, it allowed the supervisor to then designate, okay, this person's going to be out, you're going to be covering these buildings. And so it made it easier for the logistics of
But
getting
the
everything.
supervision like that, it's kind of tough. I mean, I see it because we hear, like he says, we see it at the school. I mean, if the supervision for my custodians came from, and I say mine because I'm in charge of the custodians at my school, if the supervision for them came from central office, forget it. I mean, it would be total disaster. You know why? Because we're there, we can see. I mean, I think it'll be easier to move and cover vacation time or sick time or whatever with, bringing them in from the other departments or whatever than to actually move the whole department under, I think that department has plenty and has more than enough. Unless we're looking into giving like a $50,000 raise for taking on more employees, then we shouldn't be doing that,
I mean, the only other idea would be, if you want to lump them, and I'm not trying to, is maybe leave them under administration, like you said, because, it's 10 people, it's not like, the school district has a whole bunch of them.
How many do we have?
It might be easier to.
I know that's a bigger budget than we pay the attorneys.
I know, someone reminded us of that.
So
I'm gonna highlight
there are
that.
7, 8, 9, 9 full-time. We do have about 2 part-time.
I see Public Works, they got the garbage, they got cleanup campaigns, they got a lot of staff over there, and we've transferred some of the parks maintenance people over there to help out with all the work they do, because there's just that much work over there. I just think that's putting all the, under a department that's already got a big task ahead of them is not the best way to go about it.
So the other idea
Well, for the
was...
sake of the budget, we'll just move on with it,
Yeah.
I guess, but, I guess we can revisit it where they go later, I guess.
Ivan rose his hand. You want him? Is it?
The other option that was being considered was the Parks Department with the facilities staff. Because they do facilities maintenance that they would also do. They're responsible for the repairs, also putting them in that branch of Parks Department. So it's something else that we'll consider, but we'll meet again and then
It's
we'll...
like our teaching contract, as I remember, or any other assigned duties as.
That still says that,
I remember it does.
Still
Every
says
year
that.
you sign.
Hey, I've been doing clerical work since we started, so, it happens.
It happens everywhere.
As needed, as needed. Yeah.
So then the other transfer is for the security staff, to be consolidated under the police department. So we do have the security, the port security for the bridge system. And again, it's the same thought process because there's, I believe there's 4 port security. And for training purposes, under the police department, to make sure that they know how their do's and don'ts for security, but also for staffing, because it is a 24-hour operation. Police department is 24-hour operation, so they'll be able to have
That
their
would make
control.
sense, it's security, it's safety.
Yeah, so that's the other proposal. And then the reclassified positions, I did mention the accounting clerk, and then we have 7 public works maintenance specialists. So I put a little asterisk by this because we have 4 tiers. These are our general laborers for public works. And so they have 4 tiers. It's specialist 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so whenever they meet a certain criteria, they're allowed to advance. So when you start off as a 1, it's basically an unskilled laborer. And so when you go to level 2 is when you've developed a skill. And so, and 3 is when you start to learn to use equipment, and then 4 for heavy equipment. And so as an employee progresses, they're allowed to advance. And so here it's just noting that 7 of them, up to 7 of them, are going to be allowed to move on to the next level because Public Works has determined that they've reached the skill level to move on.
But in that case, they do get an increase.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Which is deserved.
So there will be some, because of that step increase, or whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
they will see an increase.
Yes, but no increases for an individual
Yeah.
who's already there,
Yeah.
same job. And that's the end of the presentation. Unless
I
there's any-
have 2 more questions, and it has to do with the steps. So when an employee is transferred to a new position, okay, do they start at the step 1? Or again, I'm asking because like at school, and I know it's a different entity, but it's just a different way of doing it, and I do want clarification. Like at school, they usually, a position that has been, if you're promoted, let's say, usually starts at a midpoint. Am I correct? Or is always, do we start at step 1, or is there a midpoint?
I think a lot has to do also with the years you've been in there.
Right, it depends where you are in your
Yeah,
place.
I'm going to give a legal answer and say it depends.
It You've been trained well, Jesse. It depends on the person, or it depends on the position. If you're not well trained, answer that. It's on the person or the position.
No, so the way it works is, so there's a job description, and so the job description has a pay grade. And so the job description contains the minimum amount of qualifications. So let's say somebody from the outside is coming in, and let's say it requires 2 years of experience, and they have 8 years of experience. Well, under the approved plan, the city manager has authority to approve a certain amount of steps that equal that additional experience. So just because you come in doesn't put you on step 1. So it depends on the qualifications of the individual. Now, if they're an internal applicant, like somebody who's wanting to be promoted, the way it works is that they get the promotion, they go to the next, their new pay grade, and they're guaranteed at least 5% more. So it really depends where they fall on the scale. It could be step 1, depending on where they were before.
That's right.
Or it could be step 10. So it really depends on
Who the person is.
it really depends on the
The
person's
skills
situation.
and the experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, last question, I think, at least for right now.
You had one more.
I'm gonna put away your.
Hey, believe it or not, it doesn't look like it, but I do my homework, okay? It just took me a while to understand it. Okay, on page 15, you put on here, and I know that you mentioned that several times, the city is required to maintain the general fund between 25 and 30%, okay? And you probably have mentioned it, but I don't remember. At what percentage are we right now?
With the proposed budget, we're just going to be over 25%, like
Over
not even
25%.
26%. We're going to be just over 25. So we're going to be within the range, but on the lower end of the range.
Lower end.
And that would cover a 3-month,
Yes.
dry spell is needed to be,
Yeah.
which is recommended practice, So,
And,
we weren't always there.
Yeah, no, we weren't, and so, we're thankful that the council has approved those balanced budgets that have allowed us to increase over the years, and I think the benefits show themselves right now with the situation that we have. We were able to maintain our credit rating even though we lost almost $4 million in revenue. That was 15% of our budget just gone. And so because our reserves were so healthy, that allowed us to maintain it. Yeah, and at the end of every year, our budget is a plan. It's not exactly what's going to happen. We may get more revenue, we may have less expenditures, but if there's money left over, it doesn't go into fund balance because we're already at 25%. What it goes to is to future projects. So that list of projects that we went over, the 5-year plan, every year we're setting aside money because we've already reached our minimum 25%. So if we do go under 25%, then the policy requires us to come up with a plan of how we're going to get back. So that means if money's left over in future years, well, we're not going to be able to use it for projects. It's going to have to go to the reserve till we get back to where we need to be.
And the question for that was, and again, I'm being maybe selfish or whatever, but I was just, wanting to ask, because that my intentions, and I think everyone here, is if the possibility was there to give our employees an increase. I know it's a tough situation, I know it's hard, but I was just hoping that you would say, well, we're over the 40% or the 45%. So I thought, okay, that's definitely a possibility, but obviously, based on this, we're gonna have to.
And I think you asked last time, what did you say it would take for, let's say, a 3% increase?
It would be between 350 to 400,000 for
350?
350 to
400,000.
Added to the budget.
Added to the
Added
budget.
to the budget.
Correct. And so I did mention last
For
time.
3%.
For 3%.
Which everyone gave, the school and the county and everyone else.
Yeah, and that's what we typically did. Last year, we gave a lot more because we rose the minimum wage. But
So we average it out, we're still above the minimum.
Right. In previous years, we were giving basically a 3% raise. So that's what employees were getting then. But like I mentioned last time, it's something we can reevaluate. We wouldn't suggest it now because if the worst case scenario happens and the bridge is still closed in March,
Well, I make a motion for you to reevaluate.
Yes.
Actually, I would like a more concrete number of what it would be, and the only reason I'm not saying that we should do this now, because I don't think it would be prudent to do that. I mean, obviously with what we're looking at. But I would be very much amenable to amending a later budget, even
Which
if
was
it would be
discussed.
retroactive, to make sure that, to allow that opportunity to remunerate the employees, because I think a lot of y'all have been working tirelessly and stuff, and it's like, it doesn't go unnoticed. And keeping that in mind, I know this is like really not an item on here, but I wanted to make sure that, there's a lot of y'all that have stayed on, and I wasn't sure what class of, okay, sorry. I was like, I saw it flash on the screen next to me. Under the CARES Act, because I know it was not hazard pay, but what was the
bonus, the pay,
the pay, what was it?
COVID supplemental pay?
Okay.
supplemental.
I want to make sure that we did cover everyone that was still considered frontline, because I don't know if everyone was, and I want to make sure that we're being fair to all of y'all. And I would like to make sure, that's, if you can look into and report back to us, I would appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I know a lot of y'all, even if you were here in City Hall, it doesn't mean that you were not frontline, you're still here making sure the city's operating. And I don't know,
Yeah, and the issue we ran across was the restrictions with the CARES Act.
Okay.
Because it has to be directly correlated to COVID response. And so, because it is technically a type of hazard pay, so, you have to be subjected to a hazard.
Okay.
And so the focus was on the EMTs and the police officers and what we deemed were public health personnel, which are the people who are doing the outreach to the people who've tested positive and things of that nature. So those who are direcally or can be
Everyone in the
directly.
AUC.
They're working there.
Yeah, and so, we reviewed a list, I can't say we didn't make a mistake. We'll be glad to review that to
Okay,
confirm.
please.
And that was very well deserved.
Yes.
Everyone's been working hard during this time, so I commend them.
Let me, since you sort of opened a little door there, Because you said some do not qualify because of the parameters of the CARES Act. Again, I
Okay.
respect that and I understand that. Those that did not meet and were still here in operation that were, I guess, overlooked because of the restrictions of the CARE Act, could you provide us what it would cost us as a city to
Oh,
absorb?
yeah, definitely, we'll get you that number.
Okay, thank you.
Just see, one last thing, and I know this is, it's too late for this budget or whatever, but it's something that I would also like for you all to look into, either for future budget or maybe even for an amendment, okay? And this might be I guess a crazy question suggestion. What would it be, or would it be more cost effective, okay? Because I know that, and that's everywhere, in the school, in the hospital, county, that's everywhere. We have employees that at our retirement age, as far as years and age, and they're ready for retirement, and you hear it all the time. I don't retire because of the insurance. I don't retire because of the insurance. Have you all looked into the possibility of it being more cost effective, even if the city would, I guess, offset some of the cost for the insurance versus carrying that employee just because of insurance purposes,
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes, no, so cities can offer post-employment benefits, so somebody who retires will be eligible for health insurance. The issue, and to be frank, it is more expensive per se, because of claims.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's, health insurance is our most expensive benefit. You're talking about $9,000 per employee per year. And so it may seem not significant the first few years, but it accumulates, especially because the city has a 20-year retirement. So somebody who started at 20 years old, at 40 years can retire and will have health insurance for the rest of their life. And so your first year, you may have 5 people, and then it becomes 10, and it becomes 20, and so all of a sudden you start growing, a pool that you have to be paying for.
Maybe you could cap it at a certain amount of years post-employment.
Yeah, it could be at more than 20
That would
years.
just be like, I guess, an incentive for retirement if they qualify for it versus, like I said, I don't know, that's a good idea, I hadn't thought about that, but capping it in the sense that what's more cost effective for the city, doing this or doing this at a cap? Because most people would actually want to go till their, what is it, a Medicare, Medicaid qualifying age, 63?
65, 63 and a half.
60, I don't know what it is.
63,
Right?
65, yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and it is a great benefit, and I'll tell you from experience, because when my dad was an employee, when he was a fire chief, he had been here 35 years, but that was honestly one of the things that kept him here a little bit, 1 or 2 more years longer, because he was like, well, I'm not Medicare age yet, and, Obamacare now requires insurance, so, that was back then, not anymore, but, it's something that will entice people to stay. So there's no doubt about it. If we did provide that, it would be a great benefit to the employees. Our concern would be long-term, but we will look into it. We're looking at the different options. We'll talk to HR and Jaime and see, what different things we can come up with.
I mean,
I agree with
I guess
that.
this would be everyone that's already eligible for their retirement benefits, though, like through the state retirement system, right?
Correct. Yes.
Has a 20 years threshold. Okay. Very good, thank you.
So this is the first reading. We do have another reading in a week, and then the adoption 2 weeks from now. But just a reminder again, next week we do have a required public hearing on the proposed budget. And for everyone, the budget is posted on the website. And there's a link on the homepage.
Next week, same time.
Same time.
Same
Oh, my God.
Every week this month, right over, every Tuesday.
Remind them about the canvassing.
The canvassing will be,
The following day.
so the 8th, we have a meeting next week on the 8th, and then the 9th for the canvassing of the election, the runoff. All right.
I don't know if we lost the live
The
feed.
9th?
I think, I
The
saw it
9th,
right
yeah.
now, I think.
Next
we-
Tuesday and the
yeah,
next
yeah.
Wednesday.
No, the live feed.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, I think.
no, I think that was a presentation.
Well,
Oh,
if
you're
it's-
right, it did have it, right?
Yeah, it's because.
It had the live feed on the top.
That they weren't.
They're not listening.
Carlos, are you there, Carlos?
No, see,
I'll
he's
go, man.
there. I just saw, the mayor's right, he's on.
He's on? Okay.
Mr. Salinas is there you are.
Okay, we're there. We just lost it here, we lost the,
No, but I think, because Ms. Chris Oliva sent a message, they can't hear.
Oh, maybe they can't hear.
tell them that they lost connection on the meeting.
If they can't.
All right, so this is for, this does require action, so
Yes, it does.
approval of the, as presented today, of course. This is not the final,
It's
this
not
is
the final.
No, it's the first reading.
first reading. And so is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion
Elizabeth?
to approve.
Who made-
I mean,
She made,
I'll second.
Councilwoman Ramon made the motion, Councilman Salinas second. You got the marching orders, what to look for?
Yes, sir.
And so if there's no other questions, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right
Before we
hand.
vote, well, go ahead. Go ahead and vote, and then I'll, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
There's some concern on some of the things, but I guess I'll visit with you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. All right, I'm sorry, Jaime. We should have jumped over to Jaime too. Hey, wow. I know you love being at these meetings, but, you know, if you don't mind, guys, we'll go over to item number 16, consideration of possible action authorizing the city manager to implement a self-funded health insurance plan for eligible employees beginning October 1st, 2020, and authorizing the city manager to execute related agreements with Aetna for stop-loss and administration services. George?
I want to introduce Jaime, but just wanted to let you know that I know that when we first started this process a few months ago, one of the things that we wanted to do is obviously to look at this option on the self-funded component, but at the same time not to disrupt any type of coverages, any type of consistency, momentum, or anything to that effect when it comes to our health insurance for our employees, which is very, very important to everybody, obviously. So one of the things that we challenge our folks to look at is self-funded, which is something that the school district does, the county does, and by the way, Jaime Rodriguez is the agent for them as well. So with that being said, we approached Jaime, and Jaime, has been a great help to us in trying to promote that and then trying to see that, make sure that we're able to do that at the same time. You saw the savings, the potential savings that are out there. Obviously, they were not taken lightly, and that's why we decided to go that route, Ms. Ramon and Mayor and Council, because we definitely wanted to make sure we took advantage of that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our insurance agent, Mr. Jaime Rodriguez, to come on up. Jaime?
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing me to be here with you all. I enjoy you all's meetings, so you don't have to do me up. But let me get started by, congratulating with, where's Jesse over there, very fiscally responsible, fiscally conservative. Then you've got Mr. Antun over here who's very aggressive, trying to do something good for the city. You've got your HR that says, we don't want to lose any benefits for our employees. So I was entrusted to find something that was not going to have any reduction of benefits to the employees, and it was going to save money for the city of Eagle Pass. So we looked at different options to see what is it we can do there. And working with Aetna, Aetna's been a great partner for the city of Eagle Pass. And this dates back to where we got to this decision now. It's dating back to 2016-17 fiscal year. We're up with a 115% loss ratio. So this wasn't, at any time, we couldn't do that. Then we're up to 98% loss ratio in the next fiscal year, and it was an option then. Last year, we had to make some tough decisions and raise the deductibles for the employees. So this year, we didn't want to do anything like that. We didn't want to have any costs passed on to employees and any benefits dropped from them. So the city started to trend a little lower as far as their loss ratios goes. And this year was a great year to bring that option to the table, to start self-insuring for the city to try to bring some of that savings to you all. I've got something here that'll show, I saw it there where it just passes out, so I'll move around. Oh, yeah. Where it showed where the potential savings can come in. And right now, the city in Eagle Pass is in a great position. Usually when you try to self-insure, you're afraid of that risk. What about, where is that risk going to come in on those large claims? Because you are assuming the responsibility for the claims. And right now, with the way the city of Eagle Pass is trending, the worst case scenario is at your best case scenario being fully insured. So right now, the city of Eagle Pass is looking at funding about $2.75 million in your fully insured, health insured rates. Going self-insured, you're looking at funding at the worst case scenario, $2.737 million, but the expected cost being with your employees, with the population you have, the city of Eagle Pass, and with all the actuaries that Aetna has put together, they're expecting your all's claims to come in at $2.326 million, including all your fees. So if you put that number together, they're expecting your expected cost of employee to come in at $576 per employee at the end of the year. Now, you won't see that, you won't realize that savings until the years go on, until the fiscal year moves on. But the idea of a self-insured health plan is to build reserves, like I saw here, in every department has reserves building up and building up and building up. And that's the idea behind the self-insured health plan, is to build those reserves. And as I averaged in your 4 years, even though you had a bad year in 2016, every averaged all 4 years, you're about an 82% loss ratio. When you take fees out of that for administration, you still would have had about a 12% reserve on $8 million, which would have been almost about $1 million sitting in the bank for the city of Eagle Pass if we would have done that, you know, back then, assuming, but the risks were high at that time. So moving forward with the population you have now, you know, this is probably the best thing that we can do to start building reserve for the city of Eagle Pass.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Right, so the motion is
This doesn't affect the coverages.
This has no effect on coverages. Everything will continue, deductibles continue the same, their pharmacy benefit continue the same. They will get a new card because Aetna and CVS merged together. They bought out CVS. So now the pharmacy benefit manager for Aetna is CVS, so they will get a new, your employees will get a new card, but all the benefits will remain the same.
So at this point, it's nothing but benefits for the city, for the employees, pretty much?
Yes, no, there's no
Awesome.
change.
So moved.
So the motion is by Councilwoman Ramon and second by Councilman Villalpando, and this to authorize the city manager to execute the related agreements with Aetna for stop loss and administration services on a self-funded health insurance program. So, any further questions? None being, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. On the? 7.
What number was that?
That was 16.
Okay.
I'm trying. 16.
We've been jumping
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, it's going.
You gotta remind me that there's guests here so we can get them out of here.
I didn't see
You
it.
know?
It was way back there.
All right, number 7, consideration and possible approval of an ordinance levying a tax rate for the city of Eagle Pass for the tax year 2020, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law, providing a severability clause and establishing an effective date.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. The proposed tax rate for 2020 is .540743, which is the same tax rate as last year, with an M&O of .337031, INS .203712.
Once again, there is no increase in the tax rate, stay the same.
Yes. Next week, there will be a public hearing, September 8th, and a meeting to vote on the tax rate is September 15th. Here, City Council Chamber, City Hall, 100 South Monroe at 5:30 p.m.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Ramon, second by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Any questions for Maria? Nope. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous.
Thank you, Maria.
Moving on to number 8, consideration possible approval of an ordinance changing the zoning district classification of Samuel S. Sanders Survey 26, abstract 3301 El Indio Highway, from R2 Second One Family Dwelling District to B3 General Business District, finding the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law, providing a severability clause and establishing an effective date. And this goes back to the public hearing item number 3, right?
Correct. So Mayor, we did cover all the pertinent details on the background for this item in item 3 earlier, which is good since we lost the power and we lost the slides. But again, the recommendation both from the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as Planning Department is to approve an ordinance granting the zoning district change from R2 to B3 General Business District for that 1 acre tract in question. And with that, obviously, we'll need to comply with all the various ordinances. A couple of things that we would want to specify, point out specifically, being that it is adjacent to residential, is that a 6-foot-high site obscuring fence shall be constructed to separate the two zones. So that will actually be a boost, I would say, aesthetically to the area. I'm not sure if anybody has been out there lately, but currently it's got essentially like a commercial ranch style
fence.
Ranch style fence.
Barbed
And part of
wire.
it, the barbed wire is kind of falling. It's not in good shape. So by this, it'll be replacing a fence that's in bad condition, that's just open to vacant raw land, to a wooden picket fence based on our current ordinance. A nice new fence will need to be put up to separate the two. So that will be one. And then also that any on-site drainage from the construction would not go directed towards any of those nearby properties. So those are the two things I wanted to point out in this recommendation.
Now, the fence would be just at 1 acre?
Just the 1 acre, or just the
That
portion
side.
of the 1 acre that separates the business from the residential.
Residential,
So it would be
okay.
that one side.
Very good, I move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Davis, second by Councilwoman Ramon. Councilman Salinas, you had a question?
No?
No?
No, I'm sorry.
So all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Item number 9, third reading of an ordinance amending the 2019-2020 budget adopted by ordinance number 2019-15 to adjust citywide revenues and appropriations to fund current year commitments, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law, providing a severability clause and establishing an effective date.
Mayor,
Welcome back,
Council. This is the third reading. There is no changes against. We're just changing the revenue estimates for the current year to match our new expectations.
Stay balanced. So moved. Motion made by Councilman Salinas, second by Councilman Villalpando. Any further questions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous.
See the corner of my eye, she's raising her hand.
Just keep it up, we're going back. We already went through item number 10. Item number 11, consideration and possible approval of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Eagle Pass, Texas, adopting TCAP's Professional Service Agreement and GEXA Energy's Commercial Electric Service Agreement for power to be provided on and after January 1st, 2023. Is that, that's you?
That's me, Mayor. This resulted from, initially, just so you all know what we're working on this end, the AEP franchise agreement is coming up, and so Ivan gave us direction along with the city manager to move forward on the negotiations, and that brought up ways that maybe the city could receive some additional funding, since we know, and from what you saw in the budget, we're so dependent on the international bridge crossings, and then the second biggest influx of revenue is from the property taxes. So we were talking with the experts, and they mentioned that the city's already a member of TCAP, which is the Texas Coalition for Affordable Power, and so they were the ones that were able to obtain a contract for an initial 5-year period for the city, and they go to the wholesale market. They don't go to the retailers. So we end up benefiting and getting a lower rate. Now, these guys are pretty smart, and what they came up with in the video Zoom presentation that they gave to Ivan, me, Jesse, and George, was that now they have like an algorithm and a software that is able to pinpoint when the prices drop some more, and they could reap additional savings. And so they asked, we're going to now do this every 2 years, where we're always going to have our members, because they pool all of the city and the county municipalities that they represent, and so they're able to get a lower rate because of how they pull so many of the cities and county governments, and so we're using a lot of power. And so from that, they asked that we, our contract, as you can see from the resolution, will expire on December the 31st, 2022. And so they need to start working right now already so that they can figure out and negotiate a price for the city and by the end of 22, and be always 2 years ahead now. Instead of 5 years, and then that 5 years you're locked into that price rate, they think that by reducing it and figuring out when the algorithm tells, hey, this is a good price, let's lock it in, that we will reap more savings. And so they're asking you to adopt this or approve this resolution so you can give them formal authority to represent the city. They were telling us that, for example, they had members that had been there 10, 15 years, and they were still going by that very old resolution. And that's one of the reasons why they're asking everybody to renew the resolutions, where we're giving them authority to negotiate on behalf of the city of Eagle Pass.
Is this professional services, or what does this fall under?
Well, it is a professional service, but it also falls, there's another section dealing with electricity that we're able to also use for purposes of just using them. And we're already an existing member of TCAP.
Okay.
So it's just more of a formality, and also so that you'll know by the end, they're going to be coming to you, because now it's every 2 years ahead. They're going to, and we always are going to know. Jesse and the team, the administrative team, come budget time, they're always going to be aware. It's not like, oh, we have no idea what the cost of electricity is going to be. We're always going to be 2 years ahead.
Okay.
Very good.
So, Eddie, this JEXA, it's the existing AP, or that has nothing?
So TCAP is the association that goes and works with everybody, and what they did is they ended up with all these different providers, like who's going to give us the best, and JEXA came in, and they are the service providers for all of these municipalities.
Power company.
So we hold, the reason why we get such a low rate, the way it was explained to us, is because we hold so much power by pooling all of the municipalities. And so they mentioned, I don't have my notes here, how many kilowatts they're able to tell the wholesale market, this is how much kilowatts my members can bring to the table. What are you going to give me as far as price? And if you order more, the price goes down.
Right.
Yeah.
Mayoreo.
Exactly. So we're asking for you to approve the resolution.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Davis, second by Councilwoman Ramon. Just one more thing. We have two providers, AP,
In the
Rio Grande. Do they also negotiate, or they can't negotiate that Rio Grande Electric? I mean, we know that price is higher than...
I don't think Rio Grande is coming up yet. That's why we haven't discussed Rio Grande.
So they don't negotiate that through that part?
No, not the franchise part. This is just from, and I'm sorry for the confusion. We went into it with the franchise with the experts on the attorney, and what they recommended is go talk to, you're a TCAP member, go talk to TCAP to see if there's funding, grants, or anything where maybe you go put up solar panels or you put wind farms out there. And that's what led to, well, we have this program that's coming up under TCAP, and we're getting everybody in 2-year contracts.
All right. Thank you.
But to answer your question, when it does come up, we would be involved in franchising. We're asking, for example, one of the requests that George made to the partner Lloyd Gosling that is leading the negotiations on the AP franchise was, can we force AP to install LED lighting? This is not, now I'm talking about the franchise agreement, so we can save money. And then we have issues with poles and the location, so all of that is being addressed, and we'll bring it up to you. That is not what's set before you today.
All right. All right. Any further questions? None being, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Moving on to item number 12, consideration and possible approval of an amendment to Resolution 2020-19R, amending Section 6 of Resolution to 1, approve the redesignation of the number of ballots reserved for the election day and reserved for early voting. 2, approve the printing and use of additional ballots if deemed necessary. And 3, approve reserving all such additional ballots for the city officers runoff election to be held on September 5th, 2020. Imelda? Or who's that?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. After, as you know, I finished early voting today. Today was the last day for early voting. So I will only be needing to redesignate the numbering of the ballots. I'm pretty confident I will not be needing to reprint any additional ballots. I will just be redesignating the number of ballots. So I will be redesignating for election day 1,000 ballots and for early voting 3,000 ballots. I'm pretty confident with 1,000 ballots for election day.
For Saturday?
Yes, should be sufficient because during early voting, the most we had was 364, and which was a long day, which was August the 24th. That's the most we had, and it was from 8 to 8. So I'm pretty confident with those 1,000 ballots that are left over, we should have more than enough. So there's no need to order ballots.
And if you do happen to run out of the 1,000?
It's a stretch.
I'm just saying, if you run out.
Well, you have what you had left over from early voting, and then you had.
Yeah, I still have like a.
But do we have to you don't want to redesignate?
Well, I guess,
That's a,
could I, Addie just left. I
You
could
stepped
read
up.
it, I have like 100 and something left over.
oh, that's it?
Yes.
So you had almost
I mean, so
2,900?
I cannot disclose the amount from mail-outs also. So that's a I still have,
Well, the thing, I mean,
but I could use
you'd be
them.
pretty close to what you
If
already asked for,
If
so.
need be, I could use the ones I have left over from early voting. Those can also be used for election
Okay,
day.
so,
So I will redesignate those also. If need be, I will redesignate the ones that I have left over from early voting.
so what's the action we have to take here?
Just approve the resolution.
To approve the resolution?
Approve the resolution of my redesignation of the number of ballots reserved for election day and for early voting.
So motion made by Councilman Salinas, second by Councilwoman Ramon. I want to make sure, can you read what they approved, what the motion was?
Yes, the motion is that they're approving the resolution of my redesignation of the number of ballots reserved for election day.
So that's one
Yeah, that's one, and reserved for early voting.
and
That's
three.
that's all we're approving.
So 1 and 3, not the,
Just one, because
Just-
two,
Okay.
I'm almost sure, Mayor, we're not gonna need to reprint and order ballots.
All right.
That's more than enough.
all right. So there's a motion, a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Item number 13, consideration and possible approval, revocation or modification of a resolution of the City of Eagle Pass, Texas, of a local disaster declaration due to public health emergency regarding the council's recent approval of new international bridge fee rates. Possible action may include, but is not limited to, the setting of a fixed date for the new rates to terminate.
Mayor, I wanted to bring this item back to the council to discuss the decision that the council took last week. This is a decision that me personally, I don't take lightly, because I know that it's affected a lot of people from Eagle Pass, people that we represent. We did, in this order, increase the rates by a significant sum. After giving it a lot of thought, and believe you me, I want to tell you that ever since we made that decision, I've been thinking about this. And we did this in an effort to limit non-essential traffic. But really, non-essential meaning people that go shopping to Mexico, maybe to go eat. And I believe that people doing those activities are not going to stop by the 150 increase. And I think that the people that are affected by this are just regular, hardworking people that do have to go over to Piedras for essential stuff, matters. Being a lot of our people here, a lot of us go to the doctor in Mexico. People also have family in Piedras, and they have to cross frequently. Also, we need to keep in mind that, of course, a lot of people are struggling right now. Money is tight, so this increase, I believe, has affected a lot of people in that they have to pay an extra $30, $40 a week to cross. Also, the fact that, I mean, let's face it, Eagle Pass is one of the poorest cities in Texas. And from the research that I did, I believe this fee would be the largest along the border from all the cities that I saw. I mean, I wanted us to reconsider that decision. I believe that we have the power to do that. So that's my opinion. And personally, I did want to make a motion to revoke that resolution that the city of Eagle Pass passed last week and go back to the previous rate of $3.50 and for vehicular traffic and 50 cents for pedestrians.
Mr. Salinas, I'm just going to add to what I already said, and I respect your way of thinking. You know, we are professionals, and sometimes we have to agree to disagree, okay?
Correct.
And the only reason why I say that is because I understand, and I read it, you know, in a publication from CBP, 50% of the traffic is the essential traffic, okay? And I understand it's people that work over there, that come over here, you know, that's a choice, you know, they choose to live over there for whatever reason, you know, family, spouse, whatever, it doesn't matter. They choose to live over there. That's a choice. And I think our duty is for the people, to represent the people that are here in Eagle Pass. I believe that the reason why CBP is bringing that up or asking us for help in that is because, like I said at the beginning, we're hoping, we're wishing, we're, you know, begging for the infection rate to go down. As long as that doesn't happen, we cannot go on with life, and that's at the bridge, and that's at school, and that's, you know, businesses, that's everywhere. So I think the number of vehicles, you know, in a vehicle you have 2, 3, 4, 5 people, you know, the number as a whole, yes, and I know that Ms. Valderas mentioned that the pedestrian had, you know, the percentage had, I guess, gone up. And I understand that, but that's one pedestrian, you know. I know that Mr. Davis made a reference to last time, you know, if by doing this, we can help save one, I think enough lives have been lost, you know. By doing this, we can save one life. That's our goal, that's what we want, you know. The sooner we are over and done with this, the better off we will be. You know, the infection rate, like the mayor said last time, and I do remember, you know, it has not actually been proven that we take it over there or they bring it over here, none of that. Our responsibility is just to make sure that we're contained, you know, that we're in one place and that we're not really traveling, you know. So my stand on this will be to remain. I mean, I don't know, I guess everyone else can give their opinion. I just feel that sometimes, you know, it's drastic, like you say, and I respect that 100%. And I've had to discuss it with several people that feel that way, you know, after explanations, because I know that we had a lot of comments against and comments, you know, in favor, because there's also people that have the urgency of already, you know, moving on, you know. Let's get this over with and let's move on. And like I said, according to the numbers, you know, 15% of the traveling traffic is essential. That means, like you say, the other 85%, it's for pleasure, for, you know, and they're still going to continue to go. That 15%, you know, beforehand, I apologize to them, but it is a choice to live in Mexico. They make it a choice, you know, I'm going to go back to when I moved over here, you know, my mother, she was not a citizen. She had to do her paperwork to come over here. And I still remember, and I can tell you because it was a scary moment for us as children. You know, it is customary. You come from Mexico, you go to the grocery Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it is. It's a family trip. You know, I still remember the agent telling my mom, you know, what did you want to get this for? Where do you live? Oh, well, we still live over here. Or what do you want your passport for if you're not going to use it? And he told my mom, you don't use it, I'm tearing this up. Next time you cross, you will not have it anymore, because if you don't need it, then, I mean, within 2 weeks, we were here. I think it's just a part of, you know, doing what you have to do. You know, living over there, it's a choice. We chose to come over here, stomach, heart, and all. We brought it over here. It's a choice, and it's a tough choice, but
I respect your opinion. Like you said, I disagree with you. It's also people that go over there for other things, like for a doctor, for instance. Now, we've heard from our EOC that most of the infections, I believe, come from gatherings here in Eagle Pass. Gatherings with friends, the carnes asadas. We do not have, I haven't seen any evidence that says that people are getting infected in Piedras. And I know we all voted for this, but thinking about it, I mean, we weren't presented with any studies. I mean, I hear your numbers, but I haven't seen a study saying, hey, if you do this, the non-essential traffic is going to decrease.
And I think that's why it was an emergency, right? An emergency.
I'm not.
We'll let it finish and then I'll.
Yes, please, go ahead, Mr. Salinas.
It's affected a lot of our community. We don't have evidence that, I mean, it's been very little days, so I don't think that sample size is very accurate, right? That we could say from the longevity of it. But it's like you say, we do represent the people of Eagle Pass, and after hearing a lot of our people, hearing their concerns, I have taken it upon myself to make that motion, and I respect everyone here. So that's where I stand.
Okay. Well, I'd like to say something. I don't know if you can recall, but I mean, through our discussions last week, I mean, I was very much against raising the rates, and I've always been against raising rates, whether it be taxes or whatever the case may be. I mean, the bridge itself is a user fee, and those that use it are deciding to make the use, so they have to pay the fee. Now, I know, as you alluded to the study not being enough time, that's a given because we don't have the pleasure of having a long time history, just how Jesse, in trying to prepare the budget, he didn't have the historical information to try to make the budget under COVID numbers. I mean, there's no way for us to forecast that. But if we look at what we were presented, there was a decrease in some of the traffic. I know there was an increase in pedestrian traffic, but there's also been a big promotion push and they're allowing people that are coming to donate plasma, which are always walkers. So that might be why you see the increase in the number of pedestrian traffic. Now, keeping in mind, I mean, it's just like when we go back several months that we decided we didn't have the information or we didn't have the studies, but we still decided to close a lot of things down. And sometimes we have to just bite the bullet and do what might be right. I agree that I know it's an added expense, and I'm not in favor of giving an added expense. But if someone goes 5 times a week, that's $7.50. And I'm going to go back to I know I said it last time, and I'm saying it again. I think anyone's life is worth more than the $7.50. And we'll never have the study to substantiate anything that is new. COVID is something that is new facing the world. It's not an Eagle Pass issue, it's a global issue. And I know it's very difficult, but I mean, we're trying to get a bigger grasp, and I think what our counterparts in Mexico are going to be doing about the screening will only further, deter the travel. Honestly, as a city, as a municipal government, it's not what we would want. Because obviously, you've heard the number in our budget presentation. What is it doing to our budget and to our operations? We need to do something now if we want to try to eventually have a fully commercial and pedestrian traffic going in both ways. We want our people, our friends from Piedras Negras to come and visit us. We want to visit our friends in families in Piedras or Mexico. We want a completely open border, but we're not going to get there until we get reins on this horrific pandemic. And with that said, as much as I'm against any rate increase, I believe it should stay.
And I just want to clarify.
I mean, it's not to make money for the city. I mean, because I know people have said that we want to make more for the city because we're losing. No, it has nothing to do with that.
And I wanted to clarify that because that was the first thing some people were telling me, and I said, no, that's not the reason. And I know we don't have specific numbers, data, but their contact tracers in Piedras are saying they got it after gathering with people from over here too. So who took it, who had it first, it's tough to say. But
It's
once
speculation.
again, if you're allowing them to go visit family and gatherings, it's the same as allowing the gatherings here. And so it's not something we want, and this has nothing to do with trying to make the city more money. We're trying to cut the number of people going down. And look, we talked about other figures, you know, you and I, and of course, we're not going to do, we could have been more drastic about it, but at the end of the day, I see the numbers, and yes, it's only been, this is only a 5-day period that I have here before me, but there's a difference of 1,463 vehicles. And nobody goes by themselves, rarely, unless they're working, and that's probably the 15% that are considered the essential. Because unfortunately, our government right now is not considering many things essential. That's why the only Mexican nationals that can cross is if they're giving plasma, and I think if they have a confirmed, you know, doctor appointment somewhere in San Antonio or something that needs specialty care. Other than that, they're not letting anybody cross over. And it's a tough call. I've answered a lot of emails, I've answered a lot of calls, a lot of text messages, Messenger, WhatsApp, and you know, one thing that they need to understand, and this is what I make it very clear, this is not permanent. And as soon as I say that, okay, so it's not, no, we're gonna go a few weeks. And I agree, this is only 5 days, and right now I'm really thinking it needs to go on. We need to study a little more before we cut it back down, because the thing is, our government wants the numbers to go down on the crossing because the government's blaming Mexico, and of course, our counterparts, our neighbors are blaming us. And you know what? If our citizens are going over there and they're partying as a family over there, it's just as bad as if they were partying here, and we're trying to stop all of that over here.
I believe that those people that are going just to eat, etc., that's 150 is not going to deter those people. I think that the better deterrent is like what Councilman Davis says, what our counterparts are doing in screening people more. People are going to say, you know what, I'm going to be waiting in line for 2-3 hours. No, I'm not going to go to Mexico. This is affecting your regular person that goes over there for essential things. That's my opinion. I hate to compare to other border cities because I don't like comparisons, but that would make us the highest amount for a rate. Also,
And once
the
again,
numbers.
it's not permanent, and
Yeah, well-
one thing that people need to
It is the
understand.
highest rate, but we're also at the highest infection rate. I mean, and that's, you know, I think that's more important than the $1.50, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
well,
like
I
we
guess
need
if
to
it's not
lower that
permanent,
rate.
maybe the council should set a date.
And I think we had made it
But it was
clear,
as soon as the declaration was
you know,
released.
as soon as the restrictions are lifted, or we see that reduction, and it could be another 2, right now, we're looking good, and we don't want to jinx it, you know.
I know, I didn't want to say anything, but
No,
I looked at the numbers, and
I
if you look at, because I know every day the numbers are said about the total number of positives, but I think we need to look at the total active cases.
Yeah.
And if you look at that, and you look at the graph, if y'all haven't seen it, anyone that's looking at, click on your screen on the website, and it'll populate the graph, and you'll see that it has spiked. I mean, that's what you want, and you see a steady decline. Like I said, I don't want to jinx it, God is my witness. I mean, I hope we see a consistent decline,
Yeah.
and it's originally gone. I want the borders to be open. I want to see people in downtown Eagle Pass, in our malls, in our shopping centers, in our restaurants, and vice versa. I want us to resume life post-COVID, I mean, or pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
I want to be able to say the Rona is gone,
Yeah.
you know?
And also I know that, I mean, right now, we might be the highest, we're also the highest, and I know that, you know, unfortunately, tough times call for tough measures, but at the regular rate, is Del Rio higher than us, either way? I mean, aren't we the lowest?
No, we're
Rich,
the same.
isn't Del Rio at $4 and we're at $3.50?
Del Rio is at $4.
Uh-huh.
No,
On a
regular?
Regular.
Regular, so we're still lower than Del Rio. This is
Actually,
just-
we're at 5.
Uh-huh. No,
This is
yes,
temporary.
but right now for the temporary.
Okay.
But at normal, I guess, pre-COVID, they were still, it's pre and post, I mean, you know, they were at $4, so they were still higher than us, you know, so really, we are one of the lowest, you know. I mean, right now, it's,
McAllen is 350, Laredo is 350, Brownsville 375, Del Rio 4. Just for information for our viewers.
And I think we're the ones that are more dependent on the regular traffic as compared to commercial traffic. Because Laredo is by far 85–90% commercial. So their regular traffic is not as big an impact as this. And once again, this is not about, and you know, for people that early on that said, oh, you're just trying to cover your losses. No, we're trying to reduce the number of people going without getting too drastic on a $10 fee or 20, because I'm sure that wouldn't stop, you know, most people either. But we do have to do something to show that. I think 1 week of studying it and taking it back, I think it's not enough time. I think this week is going to be skewed this weekend because of the operations that are going to take place in Mexico due to the holiday. But I'd like to see at least another week or two of seeing if these crossings go down, because that's the intent. That's what our U.S. government wants to see. And until they see that, I encourage you to talk to Paul de Rincon, because that's every time they see his numbers, they're like, why do you have so many people crossing? Regular traffic, you know, and he's at the point where it looks bad on me because they're telling me to try to reduce it by doing these operations, and it's still not working.
It's not happening. People are still crossing.
So that's the thing, and if the numbers keep crossing the way they are, I think the government's going to extend it till October.
And we don't want that. That's something we don't want.
No, we need to get back to business as usual as a
And I
community.
think, you know, September 22nd, if the government lifts the restrictions, then if we hear that, even if we hear it earlier, we can stop it at that point. But right now, our government, Secretary Wolf, has he been confirmed yet? Or Acting Secretary Wolf that's what they want to see, reduction in regular traffic. Because once again, who's giving it to who? You know, and it's not their people coming over here, it's ours going over there. And now they're saying over there, well, my sobrino came and he ended up being positive and now I got it. You know, and that's what makes it very tough. You know, health, I think health.
And it's gonna be very difficult to track because there's no way for us to track the stuff that's going on in Mexico. There's no way, sadly.
A lot of this is we're going off of hearsay, and I don't think we have a person there saying, hey, what are you going for?
They actually ask you. They ask you because they're directing you. I'm telling you, last week I went and we said, okay, we went to the veterinarian and he said, okay, that's not essential. Okay, so.
Unfortunately, most things are considering not essential.
No, he actually said, the agent actually told us, you go to that line, and then we asked, okay, so what's essential travel? I mean, we told you we went to a veterinarian, you know, and he said, no. He goes, the only essential travelers are the people that live over there and come over here to work. Again, that's a choice.
If they work over here.
If they work over here, yes.
Because if they work over there, I know some guys that say they were put on the non-essential.
Non-essential, oh yeah. It's only if they live over there and they work over here. And he told us, you know, and that's only 15% of the traffic. Everybody else is non-essential, so.
Wow.
Anyways, so how do we?
Mayor, do you have a motion on the floor?
There is a motion on the floor. Do you want to amend it or put a date, or you want to?
I'll stick with the motion. And like I said, I respect each and every one of you.
No, so do we.
No hard
We're
feelings.
professionals, and we have to agree to disagree, and it's respected.
Y'all convinced me last time, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we?
Well, there's no motion.
There's no second, then
That's right,
the
that's
motion
right.
dies.
That's right.
You can table to, you know, a week to get more data, a week or two, since this weekend's gonna be skewed, or you can always bring it up, but just tabling or not taking any action.
Let's, I don't know.
I don't know if anyone wants to second it.
Till the end of September. Why are they supposed to, are we supposed to hear about?
September 22nd, they usually say it. We usually hear it like 5 days before that week before, so.
Let's take it into then. So hopefully we'll celebrate on September the 22nd. We'll be celebrating
Maybe
instead
the
of,
mid, the second week of September
before.
perhaps.
Yeah.
So Mayor, just for
I'd be
the
comfortable with the
record,
second
ask formally on the record if there's a second, and if there's no second, then it dies.
All right, so there's a motion by Councilman Salinas to retract to the regular rate. If there's no, is there a second? If there's no second, then
Motion dies.
motion dies. Does anybody want to make a motion or just to table it and look at it for another week or two?
I'll make a motion to table it and to revisit with at least 2 more weeks of data.
There's a motion to table it and review 2 more weeks of data. Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Table?
To table?
For 2 weeks, yeah.
Yes. So
Because
unanimous?
I don't want to wait a month because
Yeah.
I see that it's not
No.
doing any good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to charge the people. I'm very much with you. You know, it's just,
And I think we're all in the
I
same.
just think I need to see the numbers. you know.
unanimous.
I need to give it a fair chance.
Unanimous? Okay. All right, going on to other business. We've already done 14. Item 15, consideration and possible approval of grant agreements with the Drug Enforcement Agency for the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, OCDETF. This is like an eye test, you know? OCD.
And I couldn't even see, I was like, why couldn't I see now that I already have my glasses on? Okay.
Mayor, Council, what we're asking for here is a blanket approval for the city manager or under the police chief to sign these grant agreements, and it's plural, grant agreements. The reason behind this is that whenever a case comes up through our DEA officers, there's funding that becomes available per case. And so we'll get offered an agreement for them to take on the case, get reimbursed for their overtime, but it happens as needed. And so, you know, it's really not a specific agreement, it's just in broad. I believe we have 2 agreements that were just recently proposed, but we didn't have the authority to sign them. So what we're asking
Should've
for
just
from
called
here
me.
on out, from here on out, to just have that blanket approval for any time these come up for city manager or the police chief. to
And
sign.
that's good, Eddie? That's,
The agreements are confidential because they are very specific cases. And so the information on those agreements are not.
so the agreement is just for them to
Disclosed.
conduct the work, the investigation process, and
Correct.
then they get reimbursed for,
But it's just with respect to this issue.
To OCDF cases.
So, yeah, he's being descriptive enough for the council to take action.
all right. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Ramon,
Second.
second by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Any further questions? None being, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. I believe items 17 and 18, Jesse, we already did it, 16, 17 and 18, we're tabling those because we did not provide the right backup?
Yes, so the legislature changed the rules regarding these agreements, I believe in the last session. And so.
2 years ago?
Yes. What was the last session? Whatever the last session was.
Last year.
So this has to do with signing the agreement with Linebarger, who was selected as our property tax, delinquent property tax collection. So there's a notice that has to go out, and then the city has to make a finding that the services are necessary, which is item number 17. And then number 18 is the actual approval of the contract. So there's a certain
Okay.
step-by-step process.
Will we be able to get this on next
Next
week's
agenda,
meeting?
yes.
Okay, you'll have
We just
it.
want to make sure everything's in order before we
Okay.
take action.
So move to table?
Motion to table for items 17 and 18?
Yes.
Motion to table both 17 and 18 by Mayor Pro Tem Davis, second by Councilwoman Ramon. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Moving on to item number 19, executive session. Item number 19, executive session pursuant to section 551.071, chapter 551, Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney on pending or contemplated litigation related to code enforcement, zoning violations, public nuisance, and health and safety issues regarding 615 Main Street, also described as New Range Unit Number 1, Block 3, Lot 15-17, property in downtown Eagle Pass, possible action in open session, including but not limited to authorizing administration and/or legal counsel to seek immediate legal relief. Let the record reflect that the City Council went to executive session at 8:44 p.m. on September 1st, 2020. Ahí tienes el speaker.
He said yes, sir. He said
All right, here we go. Let the record reflect that City Council came out of executive session at 9:47 p.m. on September 1st, 2020, in reference to executive session pursuant to Section 551.071, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney on pending or contemplated litigation related to code enforcement, zoning violations, public nuisance, and health and safety issues regarding 615 Main Street, also described as New Range Unit Number 1, Block 3, Lot 15-17, property in downtown Eagle Pass, possible action in open session, including but not limited to authorizing administration or legal counsel to seek immediate legal relief. On this one, we were asking for a motion to allow legal to...
Yes, it's a, so just for the record, before the council takes action, you were given a presentation on the non-conforming use of this property by Sasha, our San Antonio attorney. She described to the council the different options that were available and also relayed to you that the property owner had actually hired an attorney that was, had reached out to us. And so based on that information and based on the input from the council in executive session, the action item that we would ask the council consider would be to authorize administration and legal counsel to proceed as directed in executive session based on the options provided.
Is there a motion? Motion made by Councilman Villalpando. No second?
Just formally go, there's no second.
So there's no second, the motion dies. Y'all want to table the item or no action?
Oh, my God.
Right, so there's no action going to be taken on it?
Honestly, I mean, if y'all want to table it, that's fine. I mean, but I can tell you, I mean, being that, I mean, I'm employed by a similar business, I really don't want to partake in it. You know,
I understand.
I don't want to see that it's some sort of a competitive thing or anything like that. That's the reason for my excusing myself. I apologize.
My reasons, I think I pretty much explained them in there. You know, it's just, again, I'm not, well,
I don't know, unless you want to table and reconsider, or?
Well, and that's why, I mean, it's either that, I mean, if they're not going to,
I
there's
mean,
not
I'll
going
make
to
a
be any
motion to
motion.
table then.
I'll second that.
Yeah, and this goes back to, once again, you know, we want to make sure people are in compliance, and that's what we're asking of our citizens on a regular basis, and that's what we need to do for anybody and everybody, to make sure they're compliant. And in discussions in there, Chief, you know that we expect all similar operations to make sure that they're in compliance also. So this is something that we put on code enforcement to make sure that this community is clean. And I think we've had those discussions, and I know council members have brought up pictures, and some of those pictures have made it on the newspaper. And so we need to make sure that if we're going to be, you know, going after regular Joe and Mary, that we're going to go after everybody that's out of compliance. And so
And I agree with you, Mayor, and I'm one of those people that have sent some of those pictures, okay, just for the record, and I believe in compliance. I just don't believe in waiting so many years to comply. I agree with what we're doing, but I think I want to go another, like, like I told you guys in there, based on the situation, I want to see it go, I want to see the compliance, but not to the route we're taking.
Well, the discussion was going to be to allow them to work it out.
Yeah.
To allow our legal team and their legal team to arrange the compliance factor.
That's what
That
I
was the
understood was a
discussion.
directive given to Sasha and legal and administration. Do not file a lawsuit yet, work with the city, with their council. We will revisit this after September 30th. That's what I understood.
That's what I thought the directive was.
And during that time, it's negotiate with
I'll
the,
second the motion that was made by Mr. Davis to go ahead and table and let's see what, you know, what,
so do we still have that, say, administration and legal?
No, she's
that's-
saying, the motion was the table.
Just table, no,
Well,
we don't.
You want him to, you're asking you if you want them to go ahead and negotiate like that?
well, no, not like that, no, not the way.
Well, here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
Well, actually, you know what, he did have a motion prior to mine, so I don't know if you want to rescind his, or you want to go with mine.
I
It's
think
how-
we did.
Well, actually, it died, right?
Yeah,
Because there was no
it
second?
Yes.
I mean, but I
There was no
know that,
second.
yeah, the chair has the right to make a
So
motion as well.
here's the thing. They've got legal team representation. They're going to be dealing with our legal team. So-
I'll make that motion for the legal teams, well, Mr. Villalpando's motion, I'll second it, where it's for both legal teams to negotiate.
To work it out.
It's by no means, I mean, we got the message very clear, no litigation.
Right.
It's go and work with them and make sure that they're compliant.
And only because of the amount of time that it's been in existence,
Yes.
you know. Obviously, there was, you know, it was even before us, before you, before anybody, before you were legal, before, you know, the chief was the chief of police, you know, it goes back to many,
Yeah, but
many
at some
years.
point, we gotta, if we're gonna ask others to be compliant, we need to be across the board making everybody compliant. And it's a difficult task. I know it's a difficult task because we see it regularly where people are out of compliance. And, you know, and we'll raise concerns, is code enforcement addressing this? And so I've seen the reports where they're addressing more issues. A lot of people are complying without having to go.
And I think the goal is
this route.
compliance. The
Yeah.
goal is compliance, you know, I understand that.
The directive was to allow legal to keep working with their legal team to come to compliance. And we're going to give them 30 days this month of September, and then revisit it again. If they're not in compliance or they're not showing any improvements on coming to compliance, then we got to consider their action, because if we're going to go after anybody else, then we can't do it if we're not going to be consistently doing it to everybody. So, and whether it's been there for decades, generations, you know, it has to be in compliance at some point.
Just for the
Got a
record.
first
So you have a
Right
motion?
now, actually, right now, wait. This is a
no.
rule of- I did have a motion and there was second. If you
Yeah.
don't want to accept the motion, that's your call as
No,
chair.
I thought you were
But-
withdrawing your motion
No, I
right
mean,
now.
I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't, but I mean, y'all.
So we have a
I mean,
motion.
I can withdraw it if you'd like. I don't have a problem withdrawing it, and y'all can go forward with your motion if you'd like. I don't have a problem with it.
Was it?
Okay.
Well,
let
we
me
had
withdraw-
already-
I'll withdraw my motion. No, no.
Okay, he had made a motion, nobody seconded, so it died. Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Davis made a motion to table, Yolanda seconded, so we haven't taken a vote on it. We haven't taken, so the process is, we have to take a vote on it, or
We can rescind it.
Okay, can rescind.
I don't have a problem rescinding it if y'all have a, if you wanna, if you think y'all have
So-
three votes.
Then,
So,
he second.
Mr. Villalpando.
so a motion is rescinded by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. It's gonna be the motion to Mr. Villalpando,
Just
Councilman Villalpando.
clarification, it's for both legal teams to negotiate, correct?
Yes, that they're
Okay.
directed, yes, to come to compliance, hopefully, okay, and get to that point. So there's a
Second.
motion by Councilman Villalpando, second by Councilman Salinas. All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
I will abstain.
I'm gonna abstain, like I said originally,
The
yeah.
motion passes with 3 votes,
And two abstentions.
2 abstentions. Last item on the agenda,
Make a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn by Councilman
Second.
Salinas, second by Councilwoman Ramon. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
And it's 9:56.
Unanimous, meeting adjourned at 9:56 PM on September 1st, 2020.
9:56.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Thank you, guys.